This podcast is brought to you by Boss to Boss Productions, Intrinsic Marketing, and Hodgepodge. Excuse me. All the services you need under one roof. You started a business because you believe in what you do. Let Intrinsic Marketing bring your product service to the market. Excuse me. That's what they do best. Intrinsic has the services, tools, and expertise to make it happen all in one place. Services include web design, social media, copywriting, and targeted ads. Don't take our word for it. See it for yourself. Visit intrinsicchicago.com. That's INTRINSIC Chicago.com for more info. And I swear I feel like I'm being choked.
That mint was trying to choke your swag the whole time.
Oh,
that mint, man. I know I got bad breath, but you didn't have it, so you didn't need that, you know. But hey, it's an extra cosmetic thing. Why not? I like it.
This water jug that I just took this humongous swig out of. Oh, yeah, by the way,
is also sponsored by.
Yeah, right. It's famous. My God, because when I had brought it to a friend's house, he's like, "Dude, is that the infamous jug you've been drinking out of over your last two podcasts?" Yes, it is. It's the gallon jug. It's what I'm talking about. But welcome to the Mack and Black podcast. That's the Mac portion of the show. Mac IU. I'm the Black portion of the show. Nick Russell, a.k.a. Two Scoops, a.k.a. Oso Negro. I got Poquito Oso Negro right here. This is my little homie. Y'all don't know nothing about my homie.
Good luck,
But for all the Yankee haters that are out there, when I brought him last week, coughing again. When I brought him last week, the Yankees had lost to the Rays that Saturday night.
Yeah.
They ain't lost a game since. And I was doing research on the boys, and we'll talk about them in a little bit.
Yeah.
But for a team that has lost half of its squad, this team has gone 16-4 in their last 20 games, and have now won 6 games in a row.
Props to Aaron Boone, man. Props to Aaron Boone, man.
And then here's the funny thing too. Freaking Met fans, which 90% of them are complete idiots.
Shout out to my boy Kyle Bailey. You're an idiot too, but you're a Mets fan.
Would sit here and be like, Yankee fans wanted Aaron Boone gone. Like sometimes fake Yankee fans wanted Aaron Boone. Don't compare us to them, okay? Nobody wanted Aaron Boone to go. Aaron Boone won 100 games with the Yankees last year. He's got a depleted team in first place. There's not a Yankee fan that wanted him to go. Just because your team sucks, and later on in the show, when we talk more baseball, Oso Negro is going to show the Mets fans how to be a better GM than the piece of crap you got because your team sucks and my team doesn't. But I am actually going to take 15 minutes out of this podcast.
Please.
And maybe it's not even that long because
we need
your
team
sucks and it's not going to take that long on how to fix your sucky team.
Can I say something about the Mets fans? I don't want to get too deep into this, but is it just me, or are Mets fans really annoying?
They're annoying.
You know, there's this thing. I used to work at the White Sox game, so I was got to see. You get to digest some of the away fans, like Detroit, obviously annoying as hell.
Right.
Rivals, I understand. Toronto fans, I will say this. I know they're your rivals. Toronto fans, and I think this just has to do with Canadians, period.
Right.
Are so nice, so cool. I don't have anything bad to say about them. Mets fans are so annoying. They're almost like it's, I hate to even say this, but sort of the contrast between Cubs and White Sox fans doesn't really do any justice to the Yankees-Mets thing.
Yeah.
Because the Yankees are I think there's been a leveling of the playing field for a lot of these dual sport or two team cities,
Right.
I think New York specifically. When was the last time the Mets have been to the World Series? Was that against the Yankees?
No.
Okay.
They lost to the
Oh, you
Royals?
know what? You know what?
No, it wasn't the Royals.
You're right. It was the year that
It was the Royals.
It was the Royals. It was the Royals. Okay. So, you got me on that one. You guys are still annoying. I'm sorry. I think
they lost 4-1 in that series.
It's not a New York thing either. It's like just something about like there's a hipness to being a sort of like when the Cubs sucked for that long period of time, 100+ years. And it became almost cool to be like, I'm a diehard Cubs fan because I stick with them when they suck.
Ooh.
Please.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
No, go right ahead.
However, I do have to give a huge happy birthday. Her birthday was on Thursday. She's watching the show right now. But my best friend, who lives in New York, who happens to be a Mets fan, is watching the show.
I'm so sorry to you.
No, it's okay. It's okay. She knows that other Mets fans are annoying.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sit here and apologize for yourself. And I say it with you with more confidence.
Please, you know more about it.
Happy birthday to Melissa.
Happy birthday, Melissa.
40 years old. She's fine as hell.
Oh yeah.
For 40. It's like, you know what they say that you age like fine wine.
Yeah.
She is the epitome of that, my friend.
Happy birthday, Melissa.
So
good
big
for you.
4-0. That's right.
Good for you.
And I turned 36 in 3 weeks.
Man.
God bless. But kudos to the baseball gods for blessing me, bringing the Yankees out those 4 days. So it's the 13th through the 16th. So you have the 13th.
They're coming
my
out?
birthday.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
The 15th and then Father's Day. I told my dad that I'd take him to go see the Yankee game on Father's Day.
Yeah.
I have to be at the park by 10. Anything after 10 o'clock, it's a dead mission because now all of a sudden everybody wants to come out.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see the Yankees.
Right.
Because if you think about it, the White Sox fans really ain't going to the game. No. It's just all the traveling Yankee fans because we travel, greatly. They're all coming in and rooting, for us to win.
It seems like the Yankees travel better than any other team in the MLB.
Oh, easily.
Other than the
Cubs, my boy Keith is watching. He's a Rays fan. Why are the Tampa Bay Rays relevant when the Yankees come through? It's because we're there to fill up the stadium.
That's another attendance nightmare. Is
attendance nightmare.
Yeah. I don't feel so bad for the White Sox once I start to look at.
See, the difference between the White Sox and the Rays is that
the White Sox suck, and that's why nobody goes to the game.
But at the same time, when they start winning, the fans will come back.
Yeah,
see, that was the one thing that used to kill me. That everyone's like, "Oh my God, the Cubs are so loyal. They're loyal fans. They come out to all to the game."
Yeah, it's just
and
a party.
To an extent, if you want to be 100% real about it, it's almost adding to the problem.
Yeah.
Because if you're still going to the games and putting out a crappy product, where you're still going to Wrigley, then the higher ups will be like, dude, we could put a 60-win team out here and still revenue, generate a lot of money because these morons are still going to come out.
They'll just come and get drunk at the game and forget what's happening on the field.
In the White Sox case, they're finally starting to get smart and traded some older guys to bring in some nice new younger guys. Yeah. And the future is bright for Chicago. You just have to do like the 76ers do and just trust the process. Mm-hmm. Trust me, the Chicago Cubs, in my opinion, are really about to go back to their old ways because everyone wanted them to go out there and get Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
But they didn't have no money because they put it all in Jason Hayward.
Yeah, and they tried desperately to unload Hayward, and nobody was going to take that. I think they tried the year before too. And also, I think it's worth mentioning the White Sox have a lot of Spanish-speaking players, a lot of Hispanic players. So I've coined the term "confía en el proceso."
Yep.
It's our own version of trust the process.
Yep.
Because we do need to. And I definitely want to get into that later, especially when we get into baseball, because, I've got a little bit of a rant on the White Sox, and I've been keeping this in because I love the White Sox. I love Rick Renteria. I love Rick Hahn. Even to a certain extent, Kenny Williams has screwed things up over the last few years, but I still love him. But I need to talk to you about the NBA.
Yes, sir.
My man, we came in here last week, and I think we were it was a foregone conclusion. The Warriors are going to win, and the Bucks are going to win, and this time around, this episode, we'd be talking about the finals. Well, about that.
Yeah, didn't work out so well.
So let me just say, the Bucks came out flat in Game 3. the Raptors sort of matched the energy and sort of, actually, had a little bit more and came out and won the game. And then they won game 4 as well. So first and foremost, I want to get your thoughts on the actual game 4. I don't know if you had a chance to look at game 4, but there was a lot of sort of shuffling on both sides. So first and foremost, the Raptors tightened their rotation.
Oh, big time.
They went to 8 players, I want to say. And Fred VanVleet, former Rockford, Illinois product, and I forgot where he went to school. Wichita State, I think it was. I don't know what it is, but had a great game off the bench. And you flip that to the Bucks, they actually lengthened their rotation. They had 10 guys playing, and lots of ineffective play from some of their bench guys. So what did you think? How do you think the series got to here now? We're 2-2, ready for game 5 tonight at 7 o'clock.
Correction.
Yeah.
Ain't this game 6?
This is game 6?
We 3-2.
Oh, that's right. You're right. I'm so sorry because Milwaukee played at home last time around. That's right. So now you're right. It's 3-2, and the Raptors can actually wrap the series up tonight. So sorry about that, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
This is what I think happened. 2 things have happened. A, Kawhi's defending Giannis.
I know, and that's crazy.
And it's driving Giannis nuts. That
Yeah.
just goes to prove how great Kawhi Leonard really is on defense.
Yeah.
I think another thing, too, is that the Milwaukee Bucks have gone stone cold broke.
Yeah.
And here's okay. I remember when we were talking about Toronto, I think it was in the Philadelphia 76ers series, when you were like that Nick House wasn't making any adjustments to Philly when they were down like 2-1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right.
Boldenhosen is doing the same exact thing that you accuse House of doing with Milwaukee.
Yeah.
If you watch that game 5, there was one time where the Bucks get the ball, Giannis goes up the court. There are 4 Raptors waiting for him in the hole.
Yeah.
He tries to go to the hole and loses the ball. Giannis, pass the ball. You have to pass the ball. You have, at some point, see, look, Giannis isn't getting those 37, 10, and 8 games like he did in the first 2 games.
Yeah.
So he fouls out in game 3, which was a huge blow.
That was huge,
because the Bucks couldn't find their offense in game 3. Then in game 4, down the stretch, the Bucks go cold and the Raptors pull away. In game 5, the Bucks went cold again and the Raptors pull away. So basically what the Raptors have doing, they've cut the head off the snake, the head of the snake, which is Giannis. And the rest of the Bucks don't know what to do. Eric Bledsoe cannot be shooting threes.
So bad. Yeah, he's so bad.
He cannot be shooting threes.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you got Chris Middleton that at some point is going to have to catch fire. Brook Lopez is going to have to realize that he's 2 inches taller than Marcus Gasol and stop being a wuss against Marcus Gasol. Nikolai Mirotic is going to have to catch fire. The Bucks, the only way they're going to win is if they hit shots.
Yeah.
And as cliche as it might sound, at the end of the day, it's the truth. The Bucks are broke.
Yeah.
And Giannis can't do it all by himself.
Yeah.
And the Raptors noticed that. And, Kawhi's being Kawhi. And, Siakam's getting big.
Yeah.
And,
VanVleet
had a big
huge.
game last.
Yeah.
And they're hitting the big shots. So if Milwaukee does not get off to a fast pace in this game and somehow maintain that, we're gonna have a Raptors versus Warriors finals.
And
which for me, I feel salty because when they were up 2-0, the way they played, I'm like, well, let's just
it's over. It's over. And that's also part of the reason I think why subliminally I was just like, yeah, we're on game 4 because you watch every single game and to a certain extent, man, watching this series is like sort of like a Groundhog's Day type of thing, right? It's like Milwaukee, they had a chance at home the last game, and you could tell that there was a nervousness around the arena and around the team once the team started shooting poorly.
Right.
Especially like game 1 and 2, Brook Lopez looked like Dirk, right? Now Brook Lopez looks like, Brooklyn Nets Brook Lopez. So,
just starting to shoot threes, Brooklyn Lopez.
And he's got, the big thing with the Bucks, man, is defensively they're not the same team as they were the first 2 games. Because those first 2 games, when we talked about it last week, we were like, my God, this defensive effort is so much better with Milwaukee. They've got the length, they've got the athleticism, they've got the size. And Marc Gasol wasn't exactly the guy that was going to be a make-or-break player for them, so we felt like, you know what, they're just going to pinpoint Kawhi, they're going to let Lowry do his thing, they're going to let guys like Norman Powell do his thing. Props to the Raptors, man. Props to Nick Nurse. Like you said, Nick Nurse has an even-keeled approach.
Nick Nurse. My dumb ass said Nick House.
Oh,
Nick
yeah,
Nurse.
no, you're good, you're good. No, you're good. Nick Nurse, he has a very even-keeled approach to everything, meaning he doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, and you can tell that there's a certain calmness to him. I don't know if it's because Drake is over there massaging his shoulders, maybe. But we'll definitely talk about that because I've got a lot of Drake content for you. But no, and just to get a little bit more into X's and O's, Fred VanVleet, when he's beating you the way that he was beating Milwaukee, there's an issue with the defensive scheme and how they're looking at things. And Budenholzer was frustrated when he was calling timeouts, and it wasn't because the team wasn't playing or was playing poorly. It's because they were playing without effort.
Yeah.
And you could tell that was just like this, what is going on, guys? We're not playing with effort right now. And Giannis, I mean, listen, dude, Giannis is a younger guy. I don't want to be too hard on him, but he's starting to crack under the pressure.
I agree.
You can start to see little fissures here or there that are growing every single week. He's not a carrying of a team type of guy. He did it through the regular season. Give him props for that. That's a different animal. And he did it within the first 2 rounds of this playoffs. But all of a sudden now, when you're
the first 2 games of this
round.
That's
true, and the first 2 games because he did have great. But now when you start to see when Kawhi's starting to push back, put more pressure on them, getting other guys involved, when you got VanVleet getting involved, when you've got Siakam getting involved, when you've got Marc Gasol playing a little bit better ball, it's hard for me to say that you can take Giannis over Kawhi at this point.
Right.
And I love Giannis, but Kawhi looks like the better player right now.
Yeah. And let me say this too. Because where I'm so upset with Giannis is if it's not working, stop going to it.
Right.
If your Euro step is not getting you to the hole to where you can either make an easy
and they're not calling that foul anymore.
For you anymore. I've seen Giannis hit 3 threes in a row because they're daring him to take that shot, and he's hitting it, and then he wants to go back into the hole. Take the J. You know what I'm saying? If you're on fire, take the J. You can't take 3 threes and then want to go to the hole where you have Siakam and Kawhi and Marc Gasol waiting for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And he did that when he did that in Game 5. I almost lost my mind. I'm like, what are you doing?
There's a lack of leadership because guys aren't telling him you got to shoot that. Like, I don't know if you remember when Embiid wasn't shooting the 3, Jimmy Butler kept yelling at him every single possession, take the 3. So you're right about that.
Yeah. So that and also on top of that, like I said, Eric Bledsoe is el garbage. Should not be taking threes. Like, no offense, if Eric Bledsoe took 3 threes and missed all 3 of them, I hope George Hill has freaking stamina for days because Eric Bledsoe would never see the court again. Either take your dumb ass to the hole or just pass the ball because you can't hit threes. You know your offense sucks when Eric Bledsoe is shooting threes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, again, it's to the point to where Milwaukee's going to have to make some adjustments. But, man, that should have been done in Game 5 because it's going to be hard to try and make those adjustments in that raucous Toronto crowd that's going to be juking the entire game.
Yeah, it's going to be nuts.
And I don't feel like the Bucks, who are a young team per se, with a young leader and a first-year coach, I don't feel like they're primed to doing that. Because you have Kawhi Leonard, who is probably in the locker room saying, look, I got one. This what it looks like.
This is how you do it. Yeah.
And trust me when I can tell you that the Golden State Warriors don't want to see me in the finals because they could barely. They had to cheat for me to get out when I was in San Antonio.
They had to hurt him. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is what you want. And unfortunately, Milwaukee doesn't have that. Like, Giannis is saying all the great things. Like, he's saying
cool sound bites after the game, but during the game, it's not the same.
Right,
yeah.
And he's saying to himself, yeah, we're still the best team. I believe you. You're not looking like it, though.
Right. Yeah.
I've said at least 3 times on my Facebook that the MVP is not looking very MVP-ish. And when you airball free throws, that's why I put it up there.
Yeah.
How are you breaking free throws? You can hit a 3 from the furthest point of the floor, but you can't hit a flipping free throw?
Not even hit the rim. I mean,
not even grazing the rim.
And if you want to be the guy like Giannis wants to be the guy, because you can tell everything that he's been doing the last few years has been trying to prepare himself to be the guy, the new guy in the league, right? He's saying all the right things. He has to say they're the best team in the league. If he doesn't, then something's wrong. If I'm his coach and he doesn't have that confidence, something's wrong. But they're not playing like it right now at all. And to be quite honest, the first 2 games, the George Hill stuff was working. Pat Connaughton was working. Nikola Mirotic was working. These were working. Now, it's horrendous.
It's horrendous.
George Hill shouldn't be on the floor. And I'm sorry. I know he's a good veteran guy who's going to give you tenacious defense, and he's done a pretty decent job on that side. But he shouldn't be on the floor. They should have especially with Bledsoe, they don't complement each other. That's another thing that I really like about Toronto. They've got complementary players.
Yes, I agree.
They've got players that work well with each other. And
I agree.
Siakam sort of blends in with Ibaka when he's in the game with them, and then he knows when Gasol's in the game with him, I've got to do something a little bit differently.
Yep.
So Milwaukee doesn't have that sense. For some reason, I just feel like the way that they go about their business, especially when they're not hitting their shots, is very sort of like, here, you have the ball. No, here, you have the ball. No, here, you have the... And then you get Giannis, who, like you said, they're giving him the shot. Now, to be fair, Nick, Toronto's begging him to take the 3-point shot.
Right.
If you're his coach, what are you telling him? Do you tell him to take those threes? Because even if he takes the 3 and makes, let's say, 1 of 3, that's sort of a success for the Bucks, but also sort of a success for Toronto, right? Because you're forcing him out of his game and making him do things that he probably isn't comfortable doing.
Right.
So it's a little bit of a weird situation he's put in, because if he shoots those 3s and misses, obviously the narrative is, well, why didn't you take it in? And obviously right now the narrative is, with not just you, I think pretty much unanimously, everyone's like, Giannis, they're making you shoot.
Yeah.
You should be shooting.
Yes.
So it's a tough situation, man. Like I said, I think it probably has to do a little bit with who you kind of listen to and what your coach philosophy is.
Right.
I don't know exactly what Budenholzer's telling him. I hope he's telling him to shoot the ball, though.
I hope he's telling that too. But, again, Giannis goes on that streak where he's hitting 2 or 3 threes in a row.
And confidence comes.
And the confidence comes, but then he wants to take it to the hole when there's 3 long Raptors. Yeah. Not just 3 Raptors, 3 of the longest ones that they have. And you're not, and again, and you said it earlier, he's not getting those foul calls like he used to.
No.
So Milwaukee has got a very tough uphill climb. And I think it all starts with Kawhi Leonard because, again, he's the guy that's got the playoff and championship experience.
Yeah.
And it works so well in Toronto because you have Marcus Sol that's been in the playoffs. And you have Serge Ibaka that's been in the playoffs. And you got to remember this, a lot of these guys that are in Toronto now was with the Dwayne Casey Torontos that just kept running into LeBron James and
year after
and
year they
year
were
after
good,
year,
but LeBron would just
just take them out, you know. And now they're at a point where it's like, okay, now we have that one championship pedigree guy in Kawhi, which is something that Milwaukee doesn't have.
Yeah.
So I think that's where it's advantage Toronto here in Game 6, and I really think Toronto, unfortunately, will take Milwaukee out. You know, I just don't. It's either gonna happen one of two ways. Either Toronto's just gonna come guns blazing, you know, at the tip, or it's gonna be what we've been seeing, where Milwaukee hangs in there a little bit, and then when those threes don't go within 8 minutes left in the fourth, Toronto's just gonna pull away and win.
Yeah,
you know, and they've been doing that. But speaking of Toronto, can Adam Silver, you know, who's always got his hand in everything, at some point give a memo to Drake and say, sit his stupid ass down somewhere? There's one thing of being a fan. Okay, I know Drake he's the young guy. You know, a lot of people believe Drake's one of the best rappers in the game and all this other. Yeah, I know, and I'm definitely not on that boat. Yeah, and all the,
I like him, but let's not go too far. Yeah.
Let me say this. I have a lot of energy when it comes to my sports teams.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of, you know, love and stuff for my sports squads and everything. But I could never see myself in a million years acting the way that Drake acted on the court. And maybe it's me being, you know, the old homie, as a lot of people that I work with always call me inside. But at the same time, I'm sitting there looking at Drake. You're giving Nick Nurse shoulder rubs and all this other, you know, all the sideline antics
and drawing at the players.
Like, I know
is getting to be a little bit. It's not Spike Lee. Like, people are like, well, what about Spike Lee? Drake's not Spike Lee, first and foremost.
Please, let's not put Drake on the same level as Spike Lee.
Yeah.
But Spike Lee never went out and
cross the boundaries.
You know, Spike Lee never gave a shoulder rub to anybody. Spike Lee never was overly obnoxious. Spike Lee, I mean, I'm pretty sure he jawed at the players. I mean, that's why Reggie Miller gave him the choke sign. But you would not have known that unless you're like, I wonder why, you know, Reggie Miller's jawing at Spike Lee. You get what I'm saying?
Some people didn't even know who he was talking to at the time. My brother was telling me stories about how it was just he was talking to the sidelines because it used to be this melded in thing. And what's even worse, Nick, is that I believe he's employed by the Raptors. I think they named him an ambassador of basketball. I think it's sort of similar to what Scottie Pippen does with the Bulls.
Right.
Is that necessarily enough to give him a pass to go on the freaking court?
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. And, you know, at the same time, Drake, there's a certain amount, like, I love what Draymond said about this. He had the best thing to say about this. I don't know if he saw this, but he goes, have you seen Drake play basketball? He can't shoot. He can't pass. He can't do anything. So why would I worry about him?
What's the one video when he's all in the University of Kentucky garb and
misses?
Just totally airs the shot. God, yeah.
So, but to be the number one thing though is just like, yo, bro, know your role and know that you're a fan and that you can freak out when something happens and you can, you know, even I don't like people who are like, you know, Budenholzer was saying he shouldn't be talking to Giannis while Giannis is at the free throw line. Come on, dude.
I disagree.
There's 30,000 people in the freaking stadium, you know, calling him all sorts of names. So
right, and if Giannis can't block that out, then that's on Giannis.
Yeah, for sure.
There's one thing of talking crap when you're in your area, you know, it's just like in wrestling. Like, there's a video, and it's an older video, of when Stone Cold Steve Austin was wrestling Triple H.
Yeah.
And Stone Cold, it's like at a house show, and Stone Cold gave him the stunner, and as soon as he counted 3, some fan went into the ring.
Oh, and started beating up.
And
I forgot about
they
that.
beat the brakes off that guy.
I forgot.
And,
They for real. It wasn't fake that time. They were beating him down.
Like Triple H went from selling the stunner to beating the crap out of this
right
dude.
away. Yeah.
And like Steve Austin was kind of like I there was nothing I could do because I'm a face.
Right.
So I really can't go out and beat up on this fan.
Yeah.
And like he said, you go out there and you buy the ticket. He was like, you can cheer, boo, hiss, you do whatever you want because you got the right to do that, for the ticket you bought. But then there's that boundary that you can't cross.
Yeah. And
in wrestling, you can't cross over. Once you cross that guardrail, you're free game.
It's over, yeah.
The same with Drake. Okay, yeah, if you want to stay on the sidelines and you're in your seat, I mean, even if you're standing up and all this, but he most definitely crossed the court a few times. And I'm just sitting here like, bro, sit your ass down somewhere.
I know you've been watching basketball for a long time. I've been watching basketball for a long time. Have you ever seen somebody sitting courtside go into the coach's box?
No.
Never.
I've
never, ever seen that. I've seen Pippen at the Bulls games. He's at the Blazers games, too. All sorts of celebrities. You've got people who are in ownership groups. You've got Aaron Rodgers there. You've got also... I've never seen somebody come out from a courtside seat and enter the coach's box the way that he did. And also, if you want to know exactly how guilty he should be, look at Nick Nurse's face when he's rubbing his shoulders.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's like, bro, like, what are you doing?
Right.
Like,
like I'm trying to
do my job. Yeah, I'm trying to do my job.
Your
job is to hype people up. I'm trying to do my job, So, listen, I will give him one thing. He got in the heads of the Bucks,
period,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bucks owner's daughter wearing the Pusha T shirt on the sideline last game, and then when they lost the game, Drake made her picture his profile picture and started hollering at her during on his Instagram. That was, to me, it was funny, but you could tell Drake got into the heads of Milwaukee. I do want to say something, and we're not going to transition out of the series quite yet, but I want to talk about the Warriors real quick.
Sure.
They clinched over the week.
Right.
It was a foregone conclusion in both of our minds. They were up 2-0 when we did the show last week. We both looked at it and said, I don't see how the Blazers can, come out there and win any games. They came close to winning 2 games and then lost them. First of all, what did you think about that series? How do you think the Warriors look now? And just kind of give me your overview right now of how that series looked.
I'm going to say something that is very unpopular. But I feel that the Blazers lost that series a little bit more than the Warriors won it.
I've heard that, yeah.
And I know people be like, oh, Nick, you're psycho nuts and everything. The Blazers had leads in the third quarter of 3 consecutive games, and they just couldn't close out.
And a fourth quarter lead in 2 of those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they couldn't close out.
Yeah.
They could not close out. So, I almost don't want to chop it up to... I don't want to chop it up to any inexperience to the Portland Trailblazers because they've been in the playoffs. Yeah. Like we're kind of hearing this developing story that apparently Dame Lillard had separated ribs. That's why he was shooting like crap.
He said he did, but there was also, remember when we talked on the show last week, I said, did he look hurt to you?
Yeah.
Because he had some leg stuff too, and he came out in the media later and said he had separated ribs. I don't know what good that does you. But...
Yeah, and I think what that was Klay Thompson was just giving him the clamps. I think that's what that was.
For sure. There's a reason why he's all NBA.
You feel what I'm saying? I think he's a much better defender than I think a lot of people give him credit.
Yeah.
But I think that this was more or less a growing experience for one player on the Blazers, and that's C.J. McCollum. Because I think now next year, I feel like C.J. McCollum's really going to be... Because I feel like he had a lot of lost opportunities, but maybe because he's the one that hasn't really been there, quote-unquote, per se.
Yeah.
Because think about it. In the Thunder series, it was pretty much Dame that pretty much was the clutch guy. Yeah. In the Denver series... It was Dame for 6 games and then McCollum for Game 7. But when you're taking on the Golden State Warriors, you're taking on a much different monster. Game 1, they got blown out. Game 2, they had a third quarter lead, pretty much a fourth quarter lead, and they blew it. Yeah. Same with Game 3 and same with Game 4. And I think Game 4, especially with about 5 minutes or so to go, there was just they had just exuded so much energy.
Yeah.
Because Draymond Green's favorite spot to hit the three is that elbow. And there was one play, like the dagger three, where two guys are on Curry, and you left Draymond Green wide open in the elbow for him to hit in his favorite spot for hitting threes.
Yeah.
So, but I'll give credit where credit is due. You know, a lot of people were saying that, the Warriors might be in trouble without KD. They're done, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But Steph Curry came back to life. Draymond Green is playing like triple-double Draymond Green. Klay Thompson was hitting a lot of his shots. They underestimated Looney, and there was and the Blazers couldn't grab a rebound to save a day in their life.
I know.
You know, and
with bigger guys on the court.
With bigger guys on the court. So that's why I'm thinking to myself in the back of my head, I'm like, you know what? The Blazers were kind of overmatched. You know, say what you want. Like, I don't even want to really talk about where the Warriors go from here with KD, because I'm like a lot of other people in a sense to where I'm saying, can we just watch this series?
Let's enjoy this.
If he's going to come back, fine. If he's not, fine. It sounds like right now he's not going to be back for the finals. So, at the end of the day, gotta give credit's due. These Warriors look like the 73-9 Warriors, or not the last year Warriors because KD was, but the Warriors that won the first championship
before KD got there,
gave the Cavaliers a run for their money. So
and Steve Kerr, man, I said this last week, I'm gonna say it again. You got to give props to the guy. He loses his best player, and you know I do have my own little conspiracy theory on that because I said that in episode 1 of our show. I think that they knew the severity of his injury almost immediately.
Yeah.
And I think they were playing coy about it because now it went from he's going to for sure come back in the Blazers series to I don't know if he's going to come back in the Blazers series to no, he's definitely not coming back in the Blazers series, but he may be back for game 1 or 2 of the finals. And now he's definitely not going to be back for the game 1 or 2 of the finals, but it's possible he'll make it to the series. It's over. He's not playing another minute with the Warriors.
No.
They're going to win this title without him. I feel that no matter who comes out of the East, I'm not sure they can quite get to the level that they need to go right now to beat this Warriors team. And partly it's because of Steve Kerr. What he's done with some of these pieces, with Alfonso McKinney and Jordan Bell and Andrew Bogut and Jonas Jerebko, Sean Livingston. I know Iguodala was hurt, but he should be back for the finals. You got to give credit to this guy, man.
Yeah.
This is not a team that you would suspect should be blowing a team like Portland out of the water. Portland had, like you said, Portland had a lot of opportunities. Miles Leonard was going crazy on them.
Yes, he was.
And dunking all over the place and shooting threes and getting rebounds. And to a certain extent, I think the Blazers gave a little bit of a blueprint on how to maybe neutralize them. But credit where credit's due, man. Steph Curry stepped up. Draymond looked like an all-NBA player, not just all defense, but all-NBA. I mean, the way that he was running the floor, executing the offense, getting rebounds, you know, his passing, he's probably the best passer, big man in the league, without a doubt, because of his IQ. He just knows when to get the ball to guys, how to get it to them. He has such a good chemistry with everyone. I just think the Warriors right now are in a different league.
Yeah,
I think
so. But at the same time, though, you know,
they're beatable. They're beatable,
and that's what I'm going to come with because that's why I think that if they end up playing Toronto, I think Toronto's going to give them more fits than I think we're giving them credit, and it's simply because of Kawhi Leonard. Because I think that San Antonio series a couple years ago, I think that outcome is a lot different if Kawhi was on there.
Yeah,
because he was the one that was really putting the clamps on whoever the hottest shooter was and make everybody else beat him. And I think that with Kawhi and Siakam and Serge and Mark, you know, we've seen that Marc Gasol, for what it's worth, has more stamina than Andrew Bogut. And if that is the case and the Raptors are smart, they're trying to play big against a team that really can't really play big.
Yeah.
And we know that Kawhi Leonard is clutch in most situations, and he's no stranger to the Warriors.
No, he knows
And
them,
I think that Toronto versus Golden State, like, think about it like this. If you're the NBA, like, okay, I'm just not thinking about this. Like, if you're the NBA, like, this isn't, okay. How do I want to put this in
It's
words?
not a big market.
Bingo.
I get what
This
you're saying.
isn't, let's say, because even for what it's worth, the Bulls series, if you look at their opponents, maybe the most formidable opponent that they played were the Lakers.
Yeah.
The number 3 market in the world against the number 2 market in the world.
Yeah.
Okay? But then you played Portland. Yes, there are a lot of Hall of Famers that was on that team.
Mm-hmm.
But then you played the Suns that kind of luckily that got there. Then you played against the Seattle Supersonics that were clearly overmatched. And that was the 72-10 season.
Yeah.
And then you went back-to-back against the Jazz, which most people forget that the starting center of the Utah Jazz was Greg Ostertag.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, you got an old Stockton and a post-prime Malone, and Byron Russell was your best guy, and Jeff Hornacek's like 6'2", playing the 2 against a 6'6" greatest NBA player in majority of people. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I know it's not the sexiest, but if you could get out of the fact that it's Golden State and get out of the fact that it's Toronto,
it's a good matchup.
It's a good matchup.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's going to really be a good series. And that's if Toronto wins tonight.
Yeah,
but
we'll see how it goes.
But I really think that Milwaukee's overmatched. But the rest, though, that Golden State is getting, because in fairness, they had a lot of rest in 16, 17, when San Antonio, when Kawhi Leonard got hurt.
Yeah.
Because San Antonio was dominating Golden State, and then he got hurt, and then Golden State had the miracle comeback, and then San Antonio was pretty much just overmatched like that. So
they've done that a couple times. Golden State's done that a couple times too.
Right, exactly. So I don't know. Tonight's gonna be a really good game, but Milwaukee's got their hands full.
Who do you got tonight?
I got Toronto.
You got Toronto.
I have Toronto at home.
Yeah, I think I'm probably gonna have to go with Toronto too. I would say that I hope it's a good game.
Yeah.
That, I think part of the reason why, I'll be honest with you, Nick. I'm human. I've semi-checked out of this series.
I'm only human.
No, but honestly though, bro, like, I love the NBA. Don't get me wrong, man. But the Warriors have sort of changed the way I look at the NBA. I loved the Western Conference playoffs this year. I think the Western Conference was like so series after series of tough, gritty, and also at the same time high-powered play. And I think the East was a little bit lackluster this year with obviously LeBron leaves and the sort of the sea opens up, and I'll give you the fact that there was a couple of decent series on the Eastern side, but I'll be honest with you, I've sort of checked out of that side of things. I really think no matter who comes out, I think first of all, it would be a better series if Toronto played Golden State. I really do believe that. I think Toronto has more pieces to sort of combat that, and I like the storylines better with Toronto. I also think Milwaukee can sneak up and win 2 in a row here, and I'll tell you why. I think Toronto hasn't been tested quite yet, with their physicality, meaning I think if Milwaukee came into this game with the mentality that, listen, bro, we've got to start to smash them in the mouth a little bit more. We've got to get a little bit more gritty, and especially on the defensive side of the ball, when your best defender is also your best player, it's a tough thing to maneuver through. Right. Because Giannis now has such a responsibility on the team on both sides of the ball that now when you're making him, you're doing. I think they tried to take him off a little bit of Kawhi and see how that went.
Right.
It didn't really go all that well.
Right.
But Toronto has already proved they don't need Kawhi to go nuts.
Right.
Like, they can have Lowry have a game, Van Vliet have a game, Norman Powell have a game, and they can figure a way out. So I agree with you. I think Toronto's going to win tonight, but I wouldn't be mad if Milwaukee won.
I was just about to say something and it left my mind. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Shout out to everyone that's watching right now.
Yeah,
I swear my phone is the biggest piece of crap because I kept seeing people come in and out, and then I see
Can't
that
see who it
we
is,
got a good high peak, and now all of a sudden my phone just wants to, flip it and just show me everyone that's on there.
Yeah.
I swear this phone's a piece of crap. And then this is the only reason why I'm even remotely bringing this up. It's because last Sunday, I was in Wrigleyville at some place called Casey Morant's. It's like a rooftop bar in Wrigley. It's like literally down the street from the stadium. And one guy that works for T-Mobile, I cracked the crap out of his phone when I was doing a DoorDash one day. Oh. And I was at Noodles and Company, and I went to because Noodles and Company leave the food right there when it's a delivery order, so I have to talk to them. And I put my phone there, and boom, it cracked over. And I was like, damn. And that happened back in February, March, right? Yeah. So I've been running with this cracked ass phone for this long. And then the one dude was making fun of me. He's like, dude, why are you walking around with that busted phone? And I'm like, cause I tried to get the S10 Plus, and T-Mobile was talking about $350 to walk out of the store with it.
How about that? I mean,
I ain't had the bread for all that.
First of all, I need to get you to Sprint, bro. Can I just say I'm not a huge giant fan of Sprint. They're not sponsoring this podcast until they do. I'm not going to do too much of a sales pitch here, but I will tell you, okay, Sprint, I've been with them for almost 10 years now, and they're way better service-wise than anybody I've ever had, and they're one of those companies that's like, if you come from T-Mobile, we'll take care of you, bro. We'll get you that free iPhone, that free whatever. You need to think about that, man. I'll send you a couple names.
I'm gonna go ahead and answer that. The answer to that will be no, okay. Because I've been with look, people. I'm not that guy. There's people that's like, oh man, I've been with Sprint and I feel like it's time for a change. Yeah. If you pay the bill on time and your phone works, who cares? Yeah. At this point, I've been with T-Mobile for almost, I think, 10, 12 years. Oh, wow. I'm not going to change out. And he was like, the guy told me, he was like, no, it's not. It's zeroed down. You just got to pay for the taxes. It was like $100. Yeah. And then I saw the commercial. So thank you, T-Mobile, for finally bringing that up. I will be in the store soon, so I can rock the S10 Plus.
If T-Mobile wants to sponsor, I don't mind that either. Okay?
I'm just saying, hey, for real, and I'll do any commercial and any set.
We'll read any script you need us to. I'll sell out. I don't mind.
And second off, before we keep on going, because I'm in that mood right now.
Yeah.
This shirt is hot. Now the only thing about this fit that I'm rocking right now is I'm wearing black pants, but I have gray pants.
Okay.
So I feel like
the
maybe
gray would kind of
the gray would go because it's gonna match the hat.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think I'm gonna crease the gray. Because I do put creases in my pants. Right. So I'm gonna starch the bejesus out of these.
All you sundresses out there better.
And by the way, yes,
better watch out.
I want to thank God for women. Because it is sundress season. For those that don't live in Chicago, Mack and I live in the Chicagoland area. We know that when the weather breaks, there's a positive and a negative. The positive is the women are busting out the sundresses. Mm-hmm. The negative is that Chicago could be a war zone and you gotta watch your back from time to time basis. Yeah. So as much as I want to try and look at the negative, I'm just gonna keep focusing on the positive. Thank you, God.
Thank you, ladies.
For Mother Nature, if we want to just go side by side and converging and stuff, you know what? We need to go ahead and break the weather because I work in Downers Grove and the sundress game is in full
It's always
effect.
On point over there in that area.
Oh, my God. It's just so many beautiful women just walking around sundress. And I haven't even made it to Naperville yet. Oh. So I know the game is about to be
I think they invented sundresses.
As a matter of fact, I know for a fact. You want to know where I know that sundress season is going to be in full effect? Right down the street over here at the Arlington Racetrack.
Oh, yeah.
And tomorrow is
and
Sunday.
Those fancy hats
I swear the white girls be out there with that hat on, with the dress on. And I'm supposed to be looking at the horses. And I'm over like, damn, man, I'm about to shoot my shot. all the way. I'm about to hit a Steph Curry 3 against the Blazers. Remember when he hit that game-winning 3?
And just walked away, kind
from
of
from the half
from the
court,
logo.
just walked up on Russell Westbrook and just.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, against
that's,
Oklahoma
that's
City.
how
That's
far
right.
I'm shooting my shot.
Okay, why not? Why not? Hey, I do want to say before, because I know we want to move into another. I want to talk to you about Magic Johnson and the Lakers for sure. We definitely need to talk about that.
Yes.
Before we move on to that, though, I do want to talk a little bit more about the Warriors because free agency implications here.
Yes.
Klay Thompson didn't make the All-NBA team.
Mm-hmm.
I think it lost him like something like $31 million on what he possibly could have gotten. He could have gotten the Supermax.
Right.
Now he can't get the Supermax, basically. From what I've read, a lot of people are now saying that Klay is sort of in a different mindset when it comes to free agency, meaning it used to be like maybe the Warriors can give me that Supermax and then we can kind of talk a little bit more about that. Because I think that's the number one thing that bothers Klay, to be honest, is he's the one who's had to take the semi-pay cut along with Draymond to make that team work. I personally now am thinking, oh my God. I mean, I was always thinking about this summer as, oh my God, it's going to be crazy. They're going to have somebody leave. I thought it would be one or the other. I thought they would be able to convince one of KD or Klay. I'm probably convinced now that both of them are completely gone. Especially with Klay, especially if they win the title like I think they will this season. I'm not sure exactly why you would come back if you're Klay, right? You've already done it all. You've won all the championships, and now you can go. And you're not. It's not that the Warriors are going to be able to pay you more. I think they can pay him a little bit more, but not the Supermax. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about that? I know we talked ad nauseum about KD and the Knicks. Obviously, the Clippers have a lot of money to spend. The Nets will have a lot of money. The Nets are hot on Kyrie Irving now.
I saw
that. So I guess tell me a little bit about what you think the situation is going to fold out in Golden State here, because obviously they've got two free agents. Draymond's a free agent next year. What do you think is going to happen there?
I honestly think, for some reason, I think Klay, and I don't understand how in the world the Los Angeles Clippers just became this new hotspot.
I know, because they have the money.
For everyone to play basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you watched, I think Snoop Dogg was on First Take. Mm-hmm. And one thing, I'm not a huge fan of rappers going on some of these sports shows.
Me too, yeah.
But guys like Ice Cube and Snoop Dogg, I have much respect for, because they're not just your average fan. I always called out female Yankee fans that don't really live in New York to be fakes, because they just love one player and think they love the team. Oh, I love Derek Jeter, but didn't know anything else, right?
Yeah.
But these guys are a little bit different. And I thought that Snoop Dogg brought up a good point, and we'll get into the Lakers, but when he's like, nobody's trying to go to the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah.
And I agree with them 100%.
Yeah.
Because they're just the little brothers to the big dog.
Yeah.
You can sit here and say that it's the Staples Center and it's LA. But I don't feel as if when you go to a Clippers game, it brings the same aura and energy than the Lakers do.
Yeah, no.
You get what I'm saying? And as long as you keep both playing in the Staples Center, you're always going to be the little brother to the Los Angeles Clippers.
They are thinking about moving, though.
I heard about that.
They're thinking about moving. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so I think with Klay, I think he's going to stay west. But I really think it's between the Clippers and Golden State. I think that if somehow the Clippers can convince him to get out of this shadow and come be your own man, and we can still give you lots of bread for it, he might bite for it. If Golden State's saying, look, we're going to keep the core here, but yet, we're still going to win championships, maybe he'll stay there. I don't really see him going east, but again, money talks. And I heard about that Kyrie going to Brooklyn, and there's a small piece of me that really thinks that is a blessing in disguise for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it is, because there's still a lot of talk about maybe that the Knicks, maybe Kemba Walker is a better fit than Kyrie is, but if you're trying to change the culture and the attitude in New York, the way Kyrie came out of that game 5 against Milwaukee.
Yeah.
You know, if he should have done anything, and I know we brought this up before, check out what happened with Manny Machado with the Los Angeles Dodgers.
That's how you lose yourself
and
money.
that you get what I'm saying? And you end up spending I know he didn't want to go to San Diego.
Nah, hell no.
But at
Nobody
some
wants
point,
to go to San Diego.
Right.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's either LA or it's Golden State.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those two. I don't really see any other major players that's going to be for Klay Thompson.
Would you now let me ask you, would you take him on the Knicks?
Klay Thompson in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Because the Knicks still don't have a 2.
That's what I'm saying. It would make so much sense that now they can get their 2 guard. They would. Could they afford both KD and Klay? I haven't crunched the numbers on that quite yet.
They could because they have enough money to sign 2 max contracts.
So technically speaking, they could convince Klay and Durant. It's going to be a tough sell.
It's going to be a tough sell.
I don't think they would want to necessarily do that. I'm just saying they've got options to do that. And I mean, let's not forget Jimmy Butler's out and available. There's a lot of
talking about he's gonna, and they're talking about that if the Lakers offer him a max contract,
he'll go. Yeah. And I know that there was like talk about LeBron talking to Kawhi and he's already in recruiting mode right now.
Right.
But I definitely wanted to talk about the Klay stuff because I think it would be interesting for Klay. This is like a make or break type of thing for him. He has an opportunity here to sort of do the anti-Kevin Durant thing, right?
Yeah.
Which is, you know what? I've done the whole, play the second or third guy thing. Now it's time for me to go out there and be my own guy and run my own team. The Clippers is a good opportunity for him to do that. They got young pieces there. They can afford another piece to bring with him. Doc Rivers is Doc Rivers. Everyone loves him in the league. So, that would be interesting to see. I quite frankly am not exactly sold on the fact that he's going to leave quite yet. I just think that with the development of him not making the All-NBA team, he brushed it off during an interview. He was like, yeah, it's no big deal, whatever. But he knows deep down inside, they've been talking about that for freaking 6 months, that if he makes the All-NBA, he can get the Supermax.
Keith says Klay will go to the Clippers with Kawhi.
That would be interesting.
You know what?
I don't think Kawhi's leaving. I'm going to put that out there.
There you go. I don't think he's leaving either.
Did you see what Toronto is doing? So they've put around a little sticker of Kawhi's face where he can eat free for life at select restaurants. He's got people in Toronto. He's got realtors in Toronto that will give him multi-million-dollar houses for free. Now, let me just say this. Kawhi is the same guy who basically was driving a Bronco for a couple of years with the Spurs. So I'm not sure that's going to be the selling point. But to me, what he's done in 1 year with Toronto, for them to have that type of response and the way that they handled his knee situation, because remember, the reason why he wore out his welcome with the Spurs and the reason why the Spurs wore out the welcome with him was because of the way they handled his injury.
Yeah.
And that they were pushing him back, and then they were like playing media games, and then, Pop was saying, I love the guy, but he needs to play. And next thing you know, when he comes to Toronto, it's the complete opposite. Yep. He's got basically any day off that he needs. He has a 24-hour team dedicated to all of his health needs. This is a guy who said when he came in, well, it's no guarantee I'll stay. To me, Toronto's did a tremendous job of selling him Toronto. I think he comes back. And I think
it's so hard. It's so hard that when you're a free agent and you've made so many moves with one squad to just up and go. I think, especially in the NBA, like he's saying that he wants to go back home because he does have a mansion, if I'm not mistaken.
But they said the same thing about Paul George. They said the same thing about Paul George.
That's true.
You're
absolutely right.
You can always go to LA. Like for people, like when people said the whole thing about LeBron, it made sense because LeBron was sort of shifting pieces to LA, right? He was sort of like acquiring stuff and getting it to LA. Paul George, everyone was making this big stink about there's no way he goes back to OKC over LA. And what did he do? He said, screw LA. I've got a great team here with good chemistry. The fans love me. Screw going home. I can go home during the offseason, you know?
I just jacked my elbow on the camera. I tried to play it off so the camera.
Hey, let me go ahead and get into our next sponsor. I'm sorry about that, Nicholas. So I'll get into our next sponsor here. Our sponsor is Boss to Boss. Guys, are you interested in starting a podcast? Boss to Boss Productions is looking for interesting ideas for new shows. Boss to Boss makes it easy for you to get your show up and running. They handle everything from audio, video production and editing, logo design, branding, website design, hosting, RSS feed setup, scheduling, advertising, monetization, and much, much more. Guys, me and Nick are a part of the Boss to Boss family, part of the Boss to Boss branch. It's an awesome thing, and you definitely want to check this out. If you have any idea for a podcast or would like to advertise a product on an existing show, such as ours, please send us a message at bossedtoboss.com. Again, that's Bossed, BOSSED, 2, boss.com. Nick, this is an awesome thing that we're doing, man. I'm so excited that we're getting to do this every single week.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to Steve. Shout out to Boss to Boss. This has been such an awesome thing. We just started this thing, and I know that we've been talking about it for quite a while, but it's awesome we're getting to do this, man, because I think I think the world needs us.
Facts.
So I'm going to go ahead and just say that. I need to talk to you about Magic Johnson, bro.
Let's do it.
Yo, I like Magic Johnson. I want to put this out there, okay?
Yes.
I like Magic Johnson.
Yes.
I think he's a great ambassador to basketball. I think he does a lot. He says a lot of the right things. He keeps his nose out of weird shit. Like he's a good sort of ambassador to basketball. That Lakers situation, to me, is a reflection more on the Lakers than it is Magic Johnson, I think.
Makes James Dolan look like a saint.
Makes James Dolan look like he's freaking, I don't even know what to say. Like, to me,
borderline Jesus.
Yeah,
borderline
he looks like he's a freaking owner of the year because the big thing right now with the Lakers, we talked about this before this interview even came out, of how it was so obvious that this was a dysfunctional sort of weird situation where you got Pelinka, who is a former agent, not really even in a front office before in any capacity, former agent who's going to be the right-hand man to Magic Johnson, and we both knew that he wasn't going to be the decision maker there. Magic Johnson came into this job thinking, and now we know this from this interview clearly, came into this job thinking, I'm going to be the guy. I'm going to be able to make my moves. Yep. No one's going to tell me anything. Jeannie Buss isn't going to tell me otherwise. None of the Buss brothers are going to tell me anything. And then this big thing with this interview takes off with First Take. It was a 20-minute interview. I know both of us had a chance to watch it. A really interesting interview that really shed a lot of light on the dysfunction of the Lakers. And if you haven't checked it out, I would definitely suggest to check it out if you're interested, because it really sheds a lot of light on how NBA front offices should work and then how the NBA office with the Lakers is working and shouldn't work. So I do want to say, like I said, Magic Johnson, I like him. He's a good... I think he's in the wrong in a couple of different ways here.
Okay.
I'm not exactly going to say that he did a great job during this interview, because I think he did say a lot of things that he could have avoided. Like with the Rob Pelinka stuff, I get it. You want to make sure that everyone knows that Rob Pelinka was the reason that this happened. But he started delving into like secrets of the business, talking a little bit about the Buss brothers and how they were going to do operations. I understand what he was doing. He was trying to be transparent and trying to do some damage control, because a lot of people were clowning him the way that he left. He just chucked the deuces and left, and people were like, well, something's got to be going wrong. And all the speculation was, well, Magic Johnson was going to get shit canned. That's not what happened. Now we know that basically there was this huge power struggle. Tell me a little bit about what you think of that. What do you take out of that interview with First Take?
I took out of it a few things. I'm in the agreement that I think it was all because of Rob Pelinka.
Yeah.
I think that there is a relationship. I guess this is what's happening. I think there are the old classic saying of too many chiefs and not enough Indians.
Yeah, too many cooks in the kitchen.
You feel what I'm saying? And then even on top of that, you have so many people in Jeannie Buss's ear.
Yeah.
You know, that now that she is
freaking Kurt Rambis. Oh my God.
I'm so sick of hearing this name. Like, here's the problem.
Yeah.
The problem is there's too many ties in this Laker organization.
Yeah.
Because Jeannie Buss is dating Phil Jackson. Phil Jackson was a huge fan of Kurt Rambis. He was on his staff.
Yeah.
When he was the GM of the Knicks, Kurt Rambis had to be on the staff for whatever coach that came in.
Yeah.
Now that they're still dating, somehow Kurt Rambis and Linda Rambis still have their hands in the pot.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their hand in the pot.
Too much personal connection and not enough basketball
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I think with Magic Johnson, he looked at this and said, this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
And he up and left.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% with him because what struck me was what he wanted to do with Luke Walton.
Right.
Because he wanted to fire Luke a long time ago.
Yeah.
Jeannie wouldn't like it. First she said it was okay, and then she said no, it wasn't okay. Let's give him to the end of the year. Well, now you're not making my decision. So that, okay, and when he said that, that's like this, okay. That's like we're doing the show, right? Like we're talking all this creative about the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, okay, I'm not a huge fan of it's my show, it's your show.
Yeah.
But okay, so the big man founded the show, right?
Right.
I'm coming with these ideas. But then you come over my head and say this.
I start lobbing grenades over your head and yeah.
At some point I'm gonna be like, you know what? I'm done. I'm finished. I don't want nothing to do with it anymore.
Yeah.
And I understood where he was coming from.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that happens. I'm just saying, I understood where he was coming from.
I get what you're saying, yeah.
So at the end of the day, I really felt as if Magic Johnson, what he wanted to accomplish, he didn't accomplish. And I think that once New Orleans rejected the Lakers deal, everything just went south. Because then Magic Johnson traded two really good young players to the Clippers for crap, and now they made the playoffs and y'all didn't.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then the Buss brothers come in, and like you said, the Rambises come in because Magic Johnson said he wanted to bring in Tyronn Lue. Let me tell you what, and that's another thing that got me too, because he said he wanted to bring in Tyronn Lue, but the Rambises were like, we don't like Tyronn Lue. We would rather have Frank Vogel. So Jeannie Buss, who do you think she listened to? She listened to the Rambises and we got Frank Vogel. Because that struck me because we know the relationship. See, what's his name? Magic Johnson said, well, Tyronn Lue's a good coach. I don't necessarily am not on the same boat as that.
Yeah.
I think Tyronn Lue
is
good for LeBron.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I think at the end of the day, and I'm going to even say this, I'm going to say two things about LeBron James. I think the demise of Magic Johnson was LeBron James.
Yeah.
And I think somewhere in the next 2 years, LeBron James retires from the sport of basketball.
Wow.
I really think so. Because at what point, what does LeBron James...
He wants to play with his son.
Did LeBron James really think that he was just going to go to Los Angeles?
And everything was going to be fine.
And everything was going to be fine? Okay.
Yeah.
You could have stayed in Cleveland, and I bet you they would have knocked out Toronto. We're talking about
They
Cleveland
would have been in the finals
against
for
Golden
sure.
State again.
Come on, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, you decided to leave Cleveland to want to go to LA. And every time you look up, what is it? Show produced by LeBron James.
Yeah.
Show produced by LeBron James.
He's got a new HBO
He's got a new
show.
HBO. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And even in the interview show, LeBron James even said that I really wish that he would have just called me and said, hey, I'm out. He didn't have to give me no explanation. Yeah. You just say you're out, you're out. Yeah. He didn't even call. Magic Johnson knew he was out and just said, I quit and dipped. And I think that was the demise because Magic Johnson catered to LeBron.
Yeah, he did.
Jeannie Buss admitted that she almost traded his dumb ass at the deadline.
Oh my God, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I don't know why she's still a part of that.
And I think that's because Jeannie Buss knew, like, damn, we can't get anybody to come to LA and play with the Lakers.
Yeah.
When you know that the Los Angeles Clippers are getting more publicity in free agents than your team is because of number 23, you got problems. And I'm saying, okay, and I'll go with a third one. I wouldn't be shocked if LeBron James is traded by the trade deadline if the Lakers look like they're the outside looking in because Jeannie Buss wants to rid herself of it and make a new team because it's not working out.
And let's be honest with each other, man. This was going to be an experiment from the beginning, right? When LeBron got there, everybody knew it was going to be an experiment. And I still remember the people who were like, oh, my God, JaVale McGee and Rajon Rondo and Beasley, he's putting together his squad, and he's going to be, he's finally going to be able to be the full GM.
And we're keeping KCP.
And everything in it. And the huge thing for me was, like you, the Tyronn Lue stuff. I had read that everything was about 90% done with the deal, and then basically the Lakers sprung it up that Jason Kidd needed to be on his staff.
Right.
Now, if I'm Tyronn Lue, I'm not an idiot, okay?
Right.
I know that Jason Kidd has already been in talks about the head coaching job.
Right.
I already know that the ownership's going to have it out for me as soon as things start to go bad. I don't blame Tyronn Lue. Right. I really don't. I feel bad for Tyronn Lue in this because I really do think he would have been a better hire for them.
I agree.
And I think what ended up happening is, to save face, they weren't going to even be able to bring him in because the Lakers have been so terrible. I still remember back in the day when the Lakers were so savvy with PR that you wouldn't even hear a beep about Shaq and Kobe fighting. Even though everybody in the whole league, all of media, all front office, all players, all everything knew that they hated each other and knew that they were going at it every single day. It was a power struggle. And yet the Lakers were so easy. It was just so easy for them to keep it under wraps. This whole thing with New Orleans embarrassed the franchise.
I agree.
New Orleans caught them with their pants down, took 1,000 pictures, tarred them, feathered them, and spread everything out on social media.
I couldn't agree more.
And it was all because of this sort of... And let's be honest, I've already read things about how New Orleans is going to start sort of a cold war with the Lakers, meaning they're not going to deal with the Lakers anymore. They're not going to even do, and vice versa. And part of it was because they knew that the Lakers were leaking deals intentionally in order to sway influence and get New Orleans to feel the pressure to unload AD.
Right.
Props to them, man. Props to them for not only not going through with that, but for turning it around on the Lakers and making the Lakers look foolish. Because at the end of the day, that was the real straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah, Magic stuck around for a long time, but things were already really, really bad before that. I remember. It was just after the All-Star break that everyone was like, man, Luke Walton's got he's got a jet. Yep. And you already knew that Magic was talking about that weeks before that. So we already know now from his conversation with First Take that he was probably having this conversation with them before the All-Star break.
Right. And then we're talking about Rob Pelinka, and then we're talking about maybe Kobe's influence to that. Yeah. So there's another hand in the pot for a guy that hasn't played in the Lakers for like 3 years.
And Pelinka, I mean, the guy has no connection to front offices. He's an agent.
Right.
He's been on the player side. He has no sort of bearing on what's going to happen in the front office, and yet it seems like they chose Pelinka over Magic.
Exactly. So you chose the agent over the legend.
And the legend who, quite frankly, I'm going to say this, Nick, a lot of people give me crap for this. I think Magic's smart. I think he's savvy. Yeah. I think he knows what he's doing, man. Yeah. Quite frankly, I was part of this kind of, thought process a couple years ago that Magic was going to try to buy the Lakers. I still think he's going to try to, but this was before he already had this vested interest in the Dodgers now. But, to me, man, Magic is a guy you want around. Yep. He's like a guy that he's been around the freaking block, man. Yep. Like, this dude's played and then not played and then, NBA GM. I think he was thinking about, joining a bench at some point. It's a disaster for the Lakers right now.
And the funny thing is when Magic started the interview, he said he told Jeannie Buss that I got other businesses that I got to take care
Right,
of. So
and they
I
make
may
me
not
more
be-
money, too,
And they make
yeah.
me more money. So that right there let you know that he was really in it to really make the Lakers better.
Exactly,
His heart was
yeah.
in it, not so much for the bread, but his heart was in it because here's a guy that's Mr. Laker, that retired as a Laker and wanted the best for Los Angeles, you know, especially for a guy that lives out in that area, owns the Dodgers. He wants to see the team that he won, 3 championships with to succeed. So, okay, let me come in and be the general manager. Let me see what I can do. Okay, so we bring in LeBron James. Great. Now all of a sudden there's a rumor going around, like he said, that I'm not in the office enough.
Yeah.
Which was started by Rob Pelinka. I think that his name came up so much that at this point, I can't believe that Jeannie Buss didn't understand who the real cancer was in this, because it seemed like.
And I don't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I love when he made the distinction between, I heard this within basketball circles, and I was like, okay. But then I started to hear this outside of basketball circles. And that is the real key to that conversation, meaning he's starting to hear this from guys who shouldn't even know about stuff like this. So that's a great point on your part, because at the same time, if you're thinking about it right now, did Magic make the greatest moves with them? Probably not.
No.
You know, that Zubac trade and the story that came after that
was a stupid desperation trade.
Very, very, very embarrassing. And, you know, even to a certain extent, the way that they handled the D'Angelo Russell trade, which I like the way that he talked about it. I'll be honest with you. He defended it. He defended it in a way to say that was what's best for the team right now. We unloaded some salary. It was what the team needed in order to put themselves in a position to get LeBron. I agreed with that. He didn't do the greatest job, but he deserved to be in that front office over Rob Pelinka for sure.
Easily. So I don't know. I kind of just feel like that it was where Magic came out, he said what he had to say. He told Max Kellerman 50 times, and screw Max Kellerman for always trying to take one question and screw it around and think that you're going to just manipulate. He told him 3 times, I don't regret anything.
Right.
I don't regret. I'd make decisions that once I make them, it's final. I don't turn around and say, oh, what if? Oh, man, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Yeah. He knew exactly what he was doing. He knew he wanted to leave. He knew it wasn't a good situation. Yeah. And at the end of the day, he went to bed. He quit on a Thursday and was back in the office on Monday. That means he slept well Friday, Saturday, and Sunday before he had to go back into the biz.
Yep.
So I think that what Magic Johnson did was finally took the world off his back.
Yeah.
For everyone that wanted to talk smack about him, for anyone that wanted to say anything bad about him, he went out, told his side of the story. He is now free of this. It shouldn't even be talked about anymore, you know. And now the Lakers and everybody else at this point can just move on.
And to a certain extent, guys like us now, diehards, we're looking at it and going, okay, we understand now. Okay, we get it now.
Right.
Because when you put this type of stuff in context and you start to understand the power struggle that was happening and that he was losing the power struggle, and not only was he losing the power struggle, but he was basically grooming the guy who was betraying him he was grooming him to take his job.
Et tu, Brute, basically.
It's absolutely one of the weirdest front office stories I've ever heard in any sport, quite frankly, because of how the Lakers now have handled it, which Rob Pelinka came out and said, I don't know, it's disheartening to see that he said that in public because I'd never heard that, and I'd like to have a conversation with him in person.
Man, Rob
you know what, Rob Pelinka, will you
lie.
Stop using this PR machine and start writing your own damn statements and start telling people how you really feel? You know, let me ask you, man, if you're a freaking free agent in like, if you're Klay Thompson right now, why would I want to go to the Lakers?
That's why there's a fan of mine, or a friend of mine's. He's a fellow Bucks fan, a Yankees fan, but he loves the Lakers.
Yeah.
And he's over here trying to talk about the Knicks. And I'm thinking, like, New York seems like a much better destination than the Los Angeles Lakers. That's why I said earlier, when little brother looks a lot more attractive than big brother, when big brother's been out here making all this bread, you need to figure out what's going on with big brother. The Los Angeles Clippers in no way, shape, or form should be a better free agent destination than the Los Angeles Lakers. No. And as much as I agree with Snoop Dogg, like I said earlier, about nobody wanted to go to LA, it doesn't change the fact that the Clippers are a sexier destination than the Lakers, even though you play in the same stadium.
Better personnel,
it's
better
coaching, better coaching.
Yeah.
It's not a headache over there. They're running the organization great as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
You know, this team just went. They're the 8th seed in the playoffs
and gave them
have a lot of money to spend.
And they gave the toughest time to the Warriors, who we're seeing run through these other teams now. So at the end of the day, the Lakers are at a point. That's why I said that if LeBron retired from LA, I wouldn't be shocked. If LeBron was traded from LA, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah. Because GD Buss has to see and understand that we're here to cater to the Lakers. We're not here to cater to LeBron. Yeah. So when you tell me you almost traded him at the trade deadline and then you wouldn't bring in Tyronn Lue, that means that GD Buss at some point is about to wash her hands. Yeah. And what's his name now? The general manager, the one that got fired from New Orleans, Will Demps. Oh,
Isn't he the general manager?
I don't
LA
know.
Now?
I don't know.
I think he is.
I know that they eliminated Magic's position.
Right.
Meaning, like, they're like, okay, we're not going to have that position anymore. It's just going to be basically, we're dropping that out of the front office, which to me is petty because it means, why did you need him before then?
Exactly.
You know, now you're going to eliminate the position because he's gone, but when he was there, you needed. And, you know, I'll give props to Magic on this. Magic looked around the league and he saw what teams were doing. They were bringing in this president of basketball operations, right? There's a GM, there's, assistant GM, but this president of basketball operations is almost this all-encompassing position who, at the end of the day, like he said in that interview, had last say on what happened and what didn't happen.
Right.
And when you take that away from a guy like they did to Magic, they put him in the position to do what he did, which, again, I don't necessarily believe that it was right for him to divulge everything he divulged. But to a certain extent, the guy's got to defend himself, man. Yeah. Like, my God, you guys are making this guy, usurping his name and making him look like he's like some terrible person for doing what he did when he felt he was trapped,
And I think a little bit of what bothers me is that, I know what I was going to say. You know who I'm calling out to be a hypocrite? I'm so glad you brought this up. LeBron James is a hypocrite. A pure hypocrite. I just thought about this. Who is LeBron James? GD Buss dating?
Yeah, Phil.
Mm-hmm. You didn't want to come to New York. Why?
Because of Phil.
Yeah. So let me make sure I got this straight. This is why I'm saying he's going to retire from basketball. Yeah. Your hypocrite ass got mad at Phil Jackson over that dumbass posse comment. Really dumb. And then you're going to sit here and go play for the team of the owner that's dating him. And who do you think? And even Magic Johnson said it himself that he knows that Phil Jackson is in GD Buss's ear.
Yeah.
So you gonna tell me that the same guy that sat here and when he was talking to Pat Riley said, "Oh, you need to get their posse and figure out what LeBron James wants to do," and then LeBron James flipped out and said, "That's not my posse. Those are my business associates." You just went to the team of the owner that dated the guy that you got all pissed off about. Screw off, LeBron James. You're a hypocrite. You either retire or leave LA, and I'll show all respect. I'm just now thinking about that. There you go. Glad Phil Jackson's name just got brought up. Yeah. Because think about it. Think about it like this.
Yeah.
You could have hired LeBron James's posse and Tyronn Lue, and I know Phil was like, no, you cannot bow down to LeBron James, and that's why GD Buss was like, Ramesses, what do you think about it? And they said no, because who is Kurt Ramesses' best friend? Phil freaking Jackson. LeBron, you're a hypocrite.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, if you're LeBron, the fact that he came to the Lakers was, I'll be honest with you, man. I know a lot of people were calling it like a year before it happened.
Right.
I was a bit surprised by it. I was looking at the personnel that they had and thinking, is this going to work? Like, is he going to be able to make Lonzo Ball work? Is he going to be able to make Ingram work? How is he going to play? Let's be honest with each other. Brandon Ingram and Kyle Kuzma essentially play the same sort of position, right?
Yes.
I know Kuzma is a 4 if you want to be technical about it, but they play the same position, all the same position as LeBron. You can't really play all three of them at the same time. It just didn't really make a lot of personnel sense. Then when you dug deeper, you're like, oh, well, he wants to be more involved in the LA scene in Hollywood, and he moved to LA, and his sons are going to school out there, and I think there's a lot of rumors now that his son wants to go to UCLA and yada yada yada. LeBron, man, he's got I'm not necessarily surprised about your whole retirement thing because it really wouldn't shock me. I know that there's been a lot made about he wants to play with or against his son at some point. That would be interesting. I'll give him that. It would be really cool if that happens. I don't think it's going to happen. It would be really cool if it happened. So I guess, only time will really tell what's going to happen with the Lakers. But my God, does that look like a dumpster fire right now.
I'm telling you.
It's crazy. I do need to make sure we squeeze in some MLB talk before we jump into the NHL Finals. And I don't know why I say the NHL. I know hockey purists get mad because you're supposed to say
the Stanley
Cup
Lord
final.
Stanley's Cup final.
Yes, and no finals. It's just a final.
It's
the
Stanley Cup final. Right.
Okay, so with the MLB, my God, there's so many storylines this year, and I know the Yankees are one of them. The AL East I think, got 3 of the best teams in the league in it. I think other than I think the NL East is pretty interesting as well, too.
So is the NL Central.
NL Central is another interesting one. But first and foremost, we didn't really talk much baseball, so give me, because I have a rant to go on with the White Sox, sure. but I need to first kind of get your sort of understanding of how things are going right now with the Yankees. Obviously, we talked about it. My God, they've endured so many injuries.
That's right.
They've had a lot of weirdness in the offseason, too, because they weren't necessarily as involved as I think people were expecting them to be.
Right.
They got Hap, and everyone's like, well, they're just going to spend money now, and they didn't really spend the type of money people thought they would. And they give credit to the Yankees. They trusted the process in a way, right?
They did.
They said, you know what? We went out and we signed. We got Stanton. We have Judge. You guys. Let's be honest. You guys have a lot of contracts right now that are not looking the greatest, but are gonna be going away soon.
Right.
They saw the writing on the wall and they're like, okay, we've got to do something here I was happy when they did the Hat thing. I was happy when they traded for Paxton because I know that the starting rotation was clearly one of the biggest catalysts for this team.
Right.
And now you're starting to see them blossom,
right.
even without what seems like half of their team.
Right.
You're starting to see them blossom, hitting the ball a lot better. The bullpen has been a lot better. A lot better. I know I talked to you a lot about Adam Ottavino. I was like, oh my God, they can't even squeeze him in. And God, what a godsend he's turned out to be. And even to a certain extent with Paxton and Hap, I know they haven't been as consistent as people want them to be. But my God, that gives them such
Hap than Paxton. Though.
Yeah, I know Paxton, but also at the same time, we talked about it with German and freaking Sabathia and
CC. Yeah.
They've got a lot of pieces there that they've just been able to say, you know what? We're just gonna throw these guys out there. We know what the potential can be, and they're winning ball games right now.
Okay, so we were talking about trying to grab clips and stuff from the show.
Yes,
right?
Please.
This would be probably the best time.
I'm gonna timestamp
this because this is probably going to be about the best time.
Please
to put this clip out because people are gonna freak out with what I'm finna say out of my mouth.
Yeah.
You know who this 2019 New York Yankees team eerily reminds me of? The 2018 Boston Red Sox.
Oh, okay.
Because and people know how much I hate the Red Sox and I hate Boston with an absolute unending passion.
Yeah.
But these Yankees remind me so much of last year's Red Sox. Because last year's Red Sox team, okay, there was Mookie, who's the MVP. There's JD Martinez, who probably should have been MVP.
Yeah.
And then you had Chris Sale, who speaks for himself. Rick Porcello was actually really good last year. David Price was okay. He just could never beat the Yankees. And then you just had a bunch of guys that were moving on the base paths,
glue guys,
scoring a lot of glue guys, the guys that are going from first to third, the guys that are stealing bases. Not everyone's trying to hit home runs. The bullpen was a little shaky, and so was Kimbrel, but he got the job
Steven
done.
Pierce, like when he came up big for them,
Bingo,
like
Mr.
weird,
AL East. You know. And the Yankees remind me so much of that because even with the injuries, if I'm looking at this team that we got right now, DJ LeMahieu leading off is still hitting over 300. What a great pickup. Luke Voigt, who we got last year, dedicated himself to being to hitting better, getting stronger, better at the plate, went through a little struggle, has now hit a 470-foot bomb over against Kansas City earlier today. He's gotten better. Clint Frazier, who in the beginning of the year said that he wanted to take Brett Gardner's job, was sent down to AAA, but then once Stanton got hurt, brought him back up. Clint Frazier also got hurt, but now he's playing well. He had a 2-run double earlier today.
He's a highly talented prospect,
Gleyber Torres, who is a natural shortstop, who's hit 10 home runs against the Baltimore Orioles in the first two games, or first series, 2 months of the season. Is batting over 300. And then you got Gio Urshela, who everybody knew had the glove, but would he have the bat? He had a couple of hits today. He's hitting over 300. The Sanchino doesn't look like pure crap at the plate like he did last year. And even he's getting better behind the plate. Aaron Hicks done come back. His bat's starting to come. Whatever Aaron Boone was telling these guys in the locker room has paid off. The Yankees more or less played Moneyball with a bigger budget. But, you know, the thing is that when George Steinbrenner relinquished the team to Hal and Hank, but Hal's really the one that makes the decisions. Hal Steinbrenner knew off the top that we cannot keep coming out here spending, he don't want to go up to his dad and be like, "Dad, come on,
we need another check.
Right,
we need another check, Dad."
You know what I'm saying? It's his dad. So once his dad, I'm pretty sure that him and Randy Levine and Brian Cashman sat in a room and said, "We need to cut payroll, cut some spending. Let's get the farm system going. Let's build the guys up." So what do you do in 2016? You go out, you trade Carlos Beltran for the Rangers for Justice Sheffield and another prospect who turned into James Paxton. You traded Andrew Miller to the Indians for Clint Frazier and a prospect. You traded Aroldis Chapman to the Cubs for Gleyber Torres.
What a trade that looks like now.
And they did another deal that for some reason off the top of my head I can't think what they did. So then the Yankees were still competitive that year. And that's the same year that Didi came out and took over for his name? Took over
he did amazingly for Derek,
And the funny thing about that was at first he struggled. Because he tried so hard to want to be Derek Jeter. But Alex Rodriguez came and said, "Look, be yourself. You can't fill in the shoes of Derek. Those shoes are too big to fill." So once he had that talk with him, Didi came around, and you really saw it in 2017, and you even really saw it last year in 2018. So I think with the Yankees is, you know, yes, were there some talks about how are the Yankees going to go from Joe Girardi, who took the Yankees to the 7th game of the ALCS, where the Steinbrenners even said that even if he won the World Series, he probably was going to lose his job regardless for whatever reason.
Now, I hate to stop you in your tracks. Why was that? I never understood that.
I think the problem was Joe Girardi is an old school manager. He's not believing all this analytical BS. Aaron Boone is believing in the analytical and metro BS. So the Yankees wanted to transfer.
That's fair.
So we got what we got now. You know what I'm saying? And so, but everyone's like, "Oh, well, Aaron Boone pretty much got keys to the Ferrari with the team that they had, and they still won 100 games, and they still went to the playoffs." Now, this year it's been a little different, as you mentioned, with all the injuries. We just learned that Giancarlo Stanton had a setback
Another
in his rehab.
injury in
But
AAA,
guess what?
yeah.
Yankee fans are sitting here saying, take your time, big fella, because we don't need you.
We'll be fine.
Aaron Judge, he's out there. He's not swinging the bat. He's just looking at live pitching, keeping his eye up. He's been doing some light throwing.
Yeah.
He's, been doing some stuff.
Take your time, please.
Take your time, big fella.
Please, yeah.
Greg Bird, it was nice to know you. Didi is on his way back. The Yankees, not only are they playing really well this season, but Brian Cashman has so many decisions that he has to make.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I wanted to talk about with the Yankees. And I said this, I did like a little Snapchat preview, and I put it on my wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a colossal mistake that the Yankees can't do that I'm afraid they're going to do.
Yeah.
The New York Yankees cannot trade Clint Frazier. They can't do it. And I know everyone's like, oh, Clint Frazier, every game he comes up, he's up in his trade value. It'll be the biggest mistake they make. Because if you think that you're going to take Giancarlo Stanton and put him in the outfield full time, it's a colossal mistake.
Oh, yeah.
There's a young kid out here that's been proving his worth. Brett Gardner is not getting any younger.
Yeah.
And it's almost to a point to where I know Brett Gardner still has the speed and he's a leader in the locker room. It's time to move on at some point. Because now that guy can turn into Aaron Hicks if he stays healthy. You know what I'm saying? And you could keep Giancarlo Stanton in the DH, and you could put Aaron Judge in the DH, and you let them two go back and forth and give rest so they can hit.
Right.
The Yankees can't do it. I know, Severino's been hurt.
Yeah.
And I know that Paxton's just coming off the IL. And CeCe went back on the IL. I'm getting used to saying IL, not DL.
Yeah, good.
On the IL. And I'm trying to think somebody else is on the injured list as well. But
not Tanaka, is he?
Tanaka will be okay. He's supposed to make his next scheduled start.
Okay.
He took a line drive off his foot in one of the games last week. I think it was against Baltimore.
Yeah.
But he's going to be okay, and he'll make his next start. So I have to give all the credit in the world to Brian Cashman and to Aaron Boone. And you're seeing why. The Yankees are playing small ball. They're not out there going out for the home runs. Like my buddy once asked me, he said, Nick, someone came up to me and said, do you miss Giancarlo Stanton? Because I feel like the team is better without him. We miss his power. We don't miss the strikeouts.
Right.
Aaron Judge, you miss
and in
his
the
power.
field, like you said,
you don't miss the.
He's not necessarily a Gold Glover. So
exactly.
It's like,
Exactly. It's not like there's a top 10 Giancarlo Stanton in right field playbook.
Right.
That's why I'm saying the Yankees right now need to just stay the course. If Max Scherzer is really on the trading block, I would trade anyone in the farm system that includes Miguel Andujar for anyone not named Clint Frazier or anybody else. You could take whoever you want. You want to take Chance Adams, who we keep hyping up, and it really hasn't panned out? Fine. You want to take Florio, that's one of the better outfielder prospects. You want to trade him for Max Scherzer? Fine. He can replace Bryce Harper. Do not trade Clint Frazier. I cannot stress enough.
He was huge with the Indians. I remember when with the Indians, they were hyping this guy up as if like he's going to come up and be a world beater. And to your point, and give him credit, he stepped up when the opportunity came up, and now he's one of those guys taking advantage of that because, again, like you said, if Stanton's gonna come back and Judge is gonna come back, you want to make sure they're 100% healthy, and not only that, you want to make sure that they've had maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 games in AAA ready to kind of come in with that grind. So I'll give you this, man, with the Yankees. There's a certain sense, especially nowadays, with all the money being handed out and all the sort of like, there's half the league basically can't afford these players. The other half is basically just kind of going at it and trying to pay anybody anything. Give the Yankees credit for what they did over the offseason.
Oh, yeah.
And what type of team that they've put together here. And I was happy that you explained the whole Joe Girardi thing to me because I was a little bit confused about that. I was like, what is going on? Joe Girardi's clearly a good manager. He's clearly the guy that the players like. And the league has shifted to understand what advanced metrics are now.
Right.
And saying, okay, I know you guys are scared about sabermetrics, but this is different. What they're doing now and what the league is doing now is starting to understand that there's a lot of value in these numbers.
Yeah.
And not only value to you as a whole, but game by game, these metrics are what help you make the decisions you make as a manager.
Right.
And when your manager isn't acknowledging that portion, it's a huge problem.
Yep.
So credit to them for the whole Girardi thing, and now again credit to them for doing what they did over the offseason, because they could have went out there and said, you know what, screw it, we'll pay Bryce. We'll pay. You know what, we'll bring both of them. I know that there was a big thing about, well, the Yankees could, if they unloaded this contract and then did this, they could get both of them, and they didn't buy into that.
And in fairness, the only big time contract that they're really paying, I guess technically there's two. There's Giancarlo,
yeah,
and then there's Tanaka's.
Yeah.
Everybody else, they kept Severino. You know, they gave him a decent deal to avoid arbitration.
Brett Gardner.
You know,
It's not going to break the bank.
No,
but these are still contracts that you're paying pretty nice money.
Right,
to.
and they CeCe, I think, is still getting.
Are they still paying for Ellsbury too?
Oh
God!
So what a disaster.
They've got. But here's the thing, though. This is what I like about the Yankees too, because a lot of teams, when they make those types of decisions, we've got to unload this contract. It doesn't matter what we get back. You know, the Yankees bit the bullet with Ellsbury. They bit the bullet with even, Gardner. He's, like you said,
they bit the bullet for a while with Carl Pavano when he was pitching.
And they made a lot of mistakes, but you know what they said? We're not gonna say give us anything back just to take a break on our payroll. No, our payroll is our payroll. We're paying what we're paying, and we're gonna improve this team, and that's what they did. I mean, they came out and they weren't, with the whole Judge thing. They could have said, well, we've got Judge, we don't need Giancarlo. Yep. No, they went out and said, listen, we're gonna get the best value possible. We're gonna, let's be honest, they completely flexed on Miami with that, or the Marlins with that, because they got nothing back, and basically
they got two mid-level prospects,
and all they said was just please take this paycheck off our hands.
Pretty much,
we can't do that. So credit to the Yankees, man, and this kind of segues a little bit into my frustration with the White Sox, because I'm going to give credit to the White Sox. They've had a pretty decent season. They've hovered around the 500 mark. They just took two from the Astros.
Right.
Lucas Giolito had a complete game shutout. They're showing signs that they're learning how to win. My big thing right now is with Kenny Williams and the way that he handled this Manny Machado thing. Mm-hmm. Kenny Williams went out, and there was rumblings about, oh my God, Manny might consider Chicago. He doesn't like cold weather cities, but he might consider it, and this and this and that. Next thing you know, the White Sox go out and trade for Yonder Alonso, who's his cousin, Manny Machado's cousin. Then they go out and basically trade for John Jay, who's Manny Machado's best friend. And then when it comes down to signing Manny Machado, they decide to take a frugal approach and say, we're going to give you this incentive-laden contract where, on the surface it only looks like X amount, but if you, hit, play so many games and hit so many home runs and keep your average up, you can make X amount of money. That was a ginormous mistake for this franchise, and I'll tell you why. Manny Machado would look really good on this team right now.
Yeah, I agree.
And make this team a lot better. Now, okay, is he the make or break to get them to be a World Series champion? No. But they maneuvered the team. Let's be quite honest, Yonder Alonso isn't that great of a player. He's an okay player. John Jay's an okay player. He's not a great player. They actually signed Jay, but they traded for Yonder and brought in Jay to bring in Manny Machado. And then when you get into talks about contract negotiations with him, you're pinching pennies.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, bro, give the man the money, and you've already invested so much into this. The negotiations lasted for almost 3 months.
Yeah.
To me, it's like such a giant mistake, because we moved Moncada to third. It's going pretty well. You could have moved Tim Anderson to second. And you could have had Manny Machado as your shortstop. Dude, to me, That's a team, not only would I bet that would give us a +3 or 4 in wins right now, just right off the bat.
Right.
But the offense is killing it right now in certain aspects. And if they had Manny Machado there, my God, we might be talking about one of the best hitting teams in the league.
Yep.
So I'm so frustrated right now because Rick Hanna's done a great job. I don't want to be that type of fan who's like, you didn't do what I wanted you to do, so you guys suck. No, that's not the case because you guys have made some great trades. You already talked about it. You traded a lot of old guys, brought in a lot of young guys. This farm system's looking amazing. This young talent that we have is looking amazing. Tim Anderson and Yohan Moncada look great, and I'm very excited about that. But man, this whole Manny Machado thing really, every single time I watch this team, I'm watching them today get their asses whooped against the Twins. And all you could think is like, man, Manny Machado would look good right now, that 13 in pinstripes, because we had a shot at him, and they pinched pennies, and he decided to they actually, from what I've read, sort of dared him to say, well, go ahead and find something better. And sure enough, he went and found something better. So,
Chef is saying, I call him Chef. We call him Chef. Paul from Boston. He I don't know if he was listening when I said the Yankees look like the Red Sox. That clip was said. He said that he thinks that what's his name's a dirty player anyway. He destroyed the the locker room, and then he said you're welcome from Moncada.
We'll take it. Well, you're welcome for sale too.
That's a good point.
My goodness,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
He also wants to know if he thinks that the Trop is the biggest joke of a stadium in all of Major League Baseball.
Have you seen the one that's in Miami?
Well, the one in Miami doesn't have power outages.
That's true.
And doesn't have special rules if the ball hits the freaking dome.
Yeah, that's another thing that I wanted to mention earlier when we were talking about it. What really frustrates me about the Rays specifically, like the White Sox, everyone knows it's a running joke. Nobody goes to the games because they sucked for a long time.
Right.
The Rays have consistently been a contender for almost 10 years now. Let's be honest, they've had 1 or 2 years where they've dropped out. Otherwise, they're fielding a team that nobody knows who the hell they are, and somehow are hovering and always in the conversation.
Yeah.
And yet, nobody goes to ball games.
No.
And I don't know if that's just because Florida is just not a state that baseball is going to ever flourish in, because we saw what happened with the Marlins. They won freaking 2 World Series championships there and couldn't find a way to do anything with it.
Right.
So maybe it's I know that I read an article a couple weeks ago that sort of broke down the demographics of the different areas that the MLB teams are in. And Florida, and there was 2 states, Texas and Florida. Texas sort of had a rejuvenation because of Houston.
Right.
But those 2 areas seem to really, baseball's probably 3rd on their list. It's like football, basketball, and then baseball. There's not a lot of convincing evidence that you're going to be able to bring in big free agents to Tampa Bay. Let's be honest with each other here. They're not going to renovate that stadium. I don't think so.
No, there's no way you could renovate that. You
got to knock that thing down and build it new. So I'm not holding my breath about them. I would say, to me, man, the biggest joke right now in the league is the Marlins. I know they've been playing better ball, and the team has been better, and whatever. But the way that everything went down with Jeff Luria, and just the way that team seems to implode every 3 years. It's like, my God, they win the World Series, and then 2 years later, they're like one of the worst organizations in all of sports.
Yeah.
To me, that is showing a very clear a mess of a situation. And then they get this new stadium, and like we talked about, they put a freaking 50-foot lime green Marlin in center field, and they've got all these amenities, and nobody goes to the games.
Yeah.
Like, at least Tropicana Field, they're just like, you know what? Well, let's be honest. This is we're a cut and dry team, okay?
Yeah.
You come to the stadium. There's not a lot of attractions that are going to catch your eye. You come for the baseball, right? The Marlins, my God, I can't imagine what it was like. Just imagine what it was like, Nick, when They walked into the ownership's office and said, "Are you ready to see this Marlin out in center field?"
It will blow your mind.
And all I can think of is just the ownership's faces when they had people try and pitch them that was a good idea.
Yes.
That they were like, man, this is awesome.
He must have been on that Tony Montana yayo to say, yeah, that's a great idea.
That's the only excuse you have, to be honest.
Aaron says what's up to us.
Hey, Aaron, what's up, brother?
Our old colleague.
Long time no see, my man. How are you,
yeah,
brother?
dude. I think Tropicana Field is a joke. The power outage. It's so funny. They had a power outage, and the first thing that popped in my mind was Major League 3.
Oh, yeah.
When what's his name pulled the lights in Minnesota, and then... Yeah, dude.
It would only make sense if that were true too for them. Yeah. So.
Well, it backfired because then the Yankees came out and put up 7 runs in that ninth and ended up blowing out Tampa Bay. As a matter of fact, they're blowing out the Kansas City Royals right now in the second game of the doubleheader.
You know what's also sad though too with Tampa Bay? Just before we move on, they field a good team every year. Like. The teams that they're fielding are competitive.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I'm saying? These are good teams that they're fielding, and they can't figure it out.
And like I said earlier, a team can only suck for so long before they start getting it together.
Right.
Excuse me. And Tampa Bay is the epitome of that. Because they suck so bad, and they had the number 1 overall pick, and they took David Price, and then Joe Madden leaves L.A., being behind Mike Sosa for so long, and then he takes over in Tampa, and the whole culture changed.
Yeah.
And then once the culture changed, they 1 year went to Game 6 of the World Series.
Yeah.
They went to back-to-back playoff series, but then Joe Madden felt like it was time to go, and he went to.
I'm glad he did
went
too.
To Chicago.
Yeah.
And then here we are now, and you got Kevin Cash down there is doing a great job, almost a similar job, with just a bunch of young kids. You get rid of Longoria, who's kind of like the OG of the Rays. And you get rid of...
they were probably happy just to get rid of his contract, too. They were like,
yeah,
shit, we're not going to have to pay
that
motherfucker anymore.
And the Rays, they got a solid team. Like our buddy Keith asked earlier in the beginning of the show, what did we think about the Rays' quick start? My thing was...
they always start quick, too, right?
And the thing with them was that if Tampa... had a lot of injuries last year.
Yeah.
And when they got healthy, kind of with 3 weeks left in September, they tore the league up.
Yeah.
But they were so far behind in the wild card, there was no way they were going to catch up.
Right.
If they had gotten healthier 2 weeks earlier in the season, it would have been the Yankees in Tampa, let alone instead of the Yankees and the A's.
Yeah.
So I think when the season started, I said that I think that Tampa, as much as we're talking about the Yankees, and as much as we're talking about the Red Sox, the Rays are a team that you cannot ignore. No. And they came off on the hot start. Mm-hmm. They have a really good bullpen. They got the Cy Young and Blake Snell, and
Snell's great. Yeah,
right. And they've got a really good team. But the problem with the Rays right now is the same problem the Yankees were thinking. Like when the Yankees started catching heat, they couldn't gain no ground because the Rays were always winning games. Right. Now the Yankees are red flipping hot.
Yeah.
And even though the Rays are winning games, they can't gain any ground. So that's why I think the AL East with Boston, New York, and Tampa, there's no disrespect to the AL Central because Minnesota's red hot. And there's no disrespect to the AL West. The Mariners are red hot, and they've fallen off. And let me talk about Seattle for a second.
My God. What a
I
drop.
don't understand what the mindset of the Seattle Mariners ever is.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you went out there and you signed Robinson Cano to the 10-year, $200 million contract that he wanted. And then you went out and you signed Nelson Cruz. And then you went out and you got James Paxton. And then you got oh my goodness, King Felix. Mm-hmm. And you got all these pieces. And you got Edwin Diaz, who's now
one
with
of the
Mets.
best closers in
one
the
of the
league,
best fireball closers in the game.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is a great time to be a Mariner. We're spending money, this and that. Where is it going wrong? Because there's a team that when Ichiro was on there, one year, what was it? They had the best record in the league.
yeah,
They had the best record ever in the major leagues. And then they ran into the Yankees and lost in 6.
I remember that.
And it's just like ever since then, it's like there's a hype. You're thinking that Seattle can finally turn the corner, and now they're right back down in the bottom of the AL West.
Well, I'll say this. They clearly tried to unload salary this year, right? They made the trade with the Mets to send Cano and Diaz there. They got rid of Cano's contract.
Right.
They did their best to unload guys like, I know that Edwin Encarnacion was the guy they brought back in order to trade. They went and made a bunch of pieces. Here's what exactly happened. I know this because the White Sox played the Mariners twice in the first month of the season.
Right.
The Mariners came out and said, we're going to strip this team. We're going to put out some of the prospects, and we're going to be bad. And then what happened was the first month of the season, they were on record pace for offensive numbers where they were hitting like one of the best teams of all time.
Right.
I think they surprised themselves a little bit.
I think
they were like, shit, are we this good?
Right.
I mean, they had a couple failed prospects from other teams, all of a sudden hitting. Tim Beckham all of a sudden looks like what he looked like when he was supposed to be with the Rays. Dan Vogelbach all of a sudden looks like freaking Carl Yastrzemski. It's crazy what happened. And I was watching them against the White Sox. White Sox had some winnable games against them, and all of a sudden their offense just comes up and puts up 8 runs, and all of a sudden they blow you out of the water. They're coming back down to earth a little bit for sure. But that's an interesting thing that you brought up because I think that's going to be the new way of the league now. I think before, and the White Sox did this, the Cubs did this, the Houston Astros did this. You talked about the Tampa Bay Rays doing this. We also mentioned the Royals before. It used to be like, send everybody who has value out of town.
Yep.
And now we just bring back as much as we can and we'll start from new. Seattle said, well, okay, all of our guys that have value, we're going to ship them out. Cano, Diaz. I know Paxton. They traded Colomé, their other closer, to the White Sox. They got back Omar Narvaez. But what they did was they said, okay, well, Mike Zunino didn't work out, but we're going to bring in his replacement. A couple of other guys in the Paxton is another good one. Didn't work out. We're going to bring in this Japanese pitcher who I have him in my fantasy team. He's been really consistent. They went out and said, we're not going to strip this team. It doesn't make sense to strip this team. We're going to lower the salary a little bit. We're going to take out as much salary as possible, and we're going to field the team that we think has a chance.
Right.
And what happened? They surprised people in the first month of the season. And even I was reading on MLB Trade Rumors that their GM was like, it kind of threw a wrench into the way we thought things were going to go.
Right.
We were hoping to maybe, be bad enough to maybe, bring up some prospects, maybe trade some people. So that's very interesting with the Mariners because they've got a couple of guys now who are young guys who all of a sudden are now looking good. And, I know D. Gordon was at some point, a very big piece of what they do. That's going to be the new trend around the league. And I think, quite frankly, I think the Red Sox are, and don't get me wrong, the White Sox just played the Red Sox and the Red Sox look amazing, but I think the Red Sox are a year or two away from that, and I'll tell you why. Mookie Betts is going to be a free agent soon.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to figure out what they want to do with JD Martinez. They're going to have to figure out what they want to do with Chris Sale. Benintendi's going to be a free agent soon. They're going to have to make some tough decisions about payroll soon where they say, okay, we're not going to be able to pay Chris Sale and JD Martinez and Mookie Betts and Benintendi. And keep in mind, dude, they've got a couple of young guys that this season are proven. Chavis has proven himself to be a really good player. They still got Dustin Pedroia on the books. So the new trend around the league now is going to be, all right, we're not doing that well. Let's sell some of our assets, but we still want to field a team that's good enough.
Right.
And that's the key part because a lot of people, like, for Minnesota, people were looking at Minnesota last year with, like, weird eyes. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you guys aren't fielding a team that is... And now you look at Minnesota...
They're the best team in the league.
Best team in the league, and their offense is not only setting pace to be one of the best offenses of all time, to be the best offense of all time. They have, I think, because they're playing the White Sox currently... They have the most 400-plus home runs hit in a season so far this season by like 10 home runs.
Right.
they are on pace to, if I'm not mistaken, on pace to break the All-Star break record for most runs scored in a season. So to me, man, we're looking at a changed league from what we are used to for sure.
Our buddy Mike Saylor wants to know,
Mike Saylor, what's up, brother?
why do you think it's taking so long for teams to sign?
Like Kimbrel and... Well, let me tell you something about Kimbrel and Keuchel, okay? Yeah. Both of those guys are on the wrong side of 30.
Yep.
Both of those guys wanted a lot of money.
Yep.
And I'm a big fan of MLB trade rumors. If you're not, you should definitely take a look at it. There's draft pick compensation with signing them up until a certain point. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the end of this month.
Okay.
Come June, teams will not have to give up a draft pick to sign them. So not only are they not budging on how much, because I don't blame them. I really hate the way that MLB free agency has turned into the last few years, where teams are like almost colluding against these players and saying, we're not going to pay these players as much as they want, because if we do, we're screwed. Now you're going to start to see, especially with Keuchel and Kimbrel, both of them said, we know our value. We're not dropping below this, especially Kimbrel. He's a high-end closer. You know, Keuchel's another guy who could have went back to the Astros, decided to not take a pay cut. I think both of those guys will be signed by mid-June.
I think so too.
I think it's a draft pick compensation thing in addition to the salary, which again is high.
Because if you remember, how do you think Mike Trout got in L.A.?
Oh yeah.
The Yankees signed Teixeira to the big contract. It was a first-round draft pick on him. You know, G.S. Steinbrenner wasn't trying to hit it.
Yeah.
And
Teixeira, let's be honest. I mean, Teixeira,
he worked
he had
out
a good
for what
run.
it's
He had a
worth,
good run with them.
But
yeah.
it became Mike Trout. Oh, and speaking of Mike Trout, I'm glad I brought this up because I was thinking about this. It was earlier today when I was in the shower.
Yeah.
When they say you do your best thinking is in the shower.
Yeah.
Mike Trout, I'm making a bold prediction. Mike Trout will be the next Giancarlo Stanton. There's no way he's staying in L.A. Yeah. I think he only signed that contract so he can get paid. L.A. will unload it to whoever's best. Because I was thinking to myself, like, L.A.'s not winning no time soon.
Yeah. And they're still on the hook for Pujols.
Right, and everyone's sitting here talking about, oh, man, look at what happened to Machado and Harper and this and that. But I think Mike Trout was a different breed between Machado and Harper. I think Bryce Harper was, how do I want to put this? There's all this talent, but now you got to bring the baggage.
He's a flash guy. He's
Bingo.
a guy that brings you a lot of flash and cool. Yeah.
Bingo.
I understand.
And then you had Manny, which, as we mentioned before, the whole World Series thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're Mike Trout and you're like, well, damn, I'm about to be a free agent a couple years, and they're signing a big contract.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm gonna get $400 million. So then you con the freaking LA Angels to sign you to a 12-year, $430 million contract.
Yeah.
There's no way they're going to keep that. I think he gets Giancarlo Stanton.
And I believe, if I read this correctly, I think there's parameters around the deal as well to make sure that basically his numbers aren't based, or I'm sorry, his pay is not going to be based on his numbers,
right?
Which is huge to basically say, shit, in 10 years when he's going to be almost close to 40 by then. In 10 years, even if he's not playing that well, he's still going to get paid like he is.
Mike wants to know Cubs' future with Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez. I think Chris Bryant is out.
Me too,
because this is the same guy. They offered him almost a $250, $300 million contract too, and he said no.
But you got to remember, that's a Boris guy. He's a Scott Boris guy. They're very big on making sure that they don't stunt their value.
Right.
I agree with you, though. I do think Bryant's going to test waters.
Yep,
because part of the issue with the Cubs here is the Hayward contract.
Yes.
The Lester contract.
Yes.
These are contracts going to start to bog them down a little bit. And what's going to happen is, I think Rizzo's going to stay put. I think so, too. I think, you know why, though? I think because Rizzo wants to stay put.
Yeah.
I think Bryant is more motivated to go somewhere.
Yep.
I think Bryant would probably be happy to go and sign with Philly to play with Bryce Harper. I think he would be happy. To be quite honest, if I were Bryant, I would be desperate to try and stay with the Cubs, and I'll tell you why. Mm-hmm. I don't think he's as good as he looks with the Cubs. I think the Cubs have done a tremendous job with him, growing his game. Joe Maddon has done a tremendous job with him from when they first got there, where he was a high strikeout guy who couldn't hit a slider to save his life, and all of a sudden, he's in MVP form. Yep. Same thing with Baez. Yep. Baez was a guy that they were thinking about trading at first.
That's true.
And they were like, we don't know if he's even going to work out, and we've got Addison Russell, so why? And now all of a sudden, this guy's a wizard on the base path. He's a wizard in the defensive field. He can hit a home run now. He can hit for average now. I simply think they can't afford all three without unloading Lester and Hayward. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to take them off their hands.
No. And if you do, it's going to be on the last 2 years of their contract.
Sure, and you're not going to get anything back, and
right. Yeah. You're gonna get Giancarlo Stanton basically.
Right. Yeah.
That's basically what's going to happen.
Pay the contract, and we'll take two guys off
we'll
their
just
hands.
Take just two minor league.
Anybody's.
We want you to pay at least 90% of his contract, and then we'll take two mid to A to AA prospects that aren't even that good.
And while I got your attention, Cubs fans, I don't want to sound like a hater here. But, dude, this is a make-or-break season for the Cubs. Joe Maddon sounds like halfway out the door.
Yeah, I was hearing that too.
You also have this weirdness now where, like, they didn't want to pay Arrieta, but now, like, they paid Hendricks. And then the Quintana thing is going to go away soon. He's on a really good deal.
Yeah.
That is going to go away soon. The Darvish deal isn't looking really good right now. They went out and signed Wade Davis last year and, tried to use him as a stopgap. He went and got paid with the Rockies this year. They need a bullpen. They need bullpen help, dude. They're like not in a position. I know that their offense has been going crazy after the cold start. They need bullpen help. They need pitching help. And it's a make or break season, which a lot of pressure is going to be put on them now, especially with Milwaukee being Milwaukee. They're going to have to come out and basically have a season that will convince guys like Maddon, Baez, Rizzo, Bryant, all to want to stay.
Mike wants to know who are our bottom 5 teams in Major League Baseball.
Oh, man.
Well, Baltimore is definitely the bottom of the bottom.
Please, yeah, and they're the worst team in the league by far.
Worst team in baseball.
Yeah, I would also venture to say, because the White Sox had a chance to see them, that they aren't as bad as I think their record indicates, but I think they play worse than their record indicates too.
Yeah.
Because they've got a bunch of fill-in guys, and Chris Davis finally kind of snapped out of it, but he's not doing too well. I think you might, there's a case to be made right now for like the Pittsburghs of the world and, some of those guys in the NL. I'll tell you, I'll just go ahead and go out on a limb and say Baltimore. I don't know about
Baltimore is on the bottom. What's Detroit's record? Because
they're like in the thick of things. The Central right now, the Central's a little bit weird.
San Francisco has to be in that
and they've got to be thinking about San Francisco's got to be thinking about unloading players soon, man. Like, I don't understand what they're doing with Bumgarner right now.
They're trying. It's one of those where we need 3 top-level prospects for Madison. You're not getting it.
No. Cut your losses.
You got to cut the loss. You're not getting that.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, I don't know what they're doing either, but you're not going to get a top-level prospect for... If this was Madison Bumgarner, 2000, whatever, when he was, the World Series MVP, maybe 4 or 5 years later in a motorcycle accident, and you still think you're going to get top-notch deal for him? No.
I personally think this is going to be a season where you see guys like Miguel Cabrera... Some of these other guys that were staples on their teams might be sent out of town.
Yeah,
I think like the Tigers, for example, are in a position where they're probably good enough to stay in the thick of things for the rest of the year, but they're not even good enough to be a playoff team.
No.
So you don't want to be in baseball hell.
Right.
The White Sox can afford to do that because they knew that they were going to suck this year, right?
Right.
The Tigers sort of just said, let's see what type of team we can field. Now it's like, okay, Miguel Cabrera, you got to think about trading this guy. To a certain extent, like you said, Bumgarner, you got to start thinking about, getting rid of that guy. So there's going to be a lot of interesting things to, questions here.
I think Texas should be on that list. Oakland's got good pieces, but man, I think they're under 500 too.
The weird thing about the A's, man, I don't know if it's a Billy Beane thing. They always find a way to get into the wild card hunt.
Yeah, that's true.
It seems like every year they suck for the first 2 months. And then the last 2 months of this season, all you're talking about is like, well, the A's have a chance. I mean, they're back in it and they could.
Right.
So Bob Melvin is another guy who doesn't get a lot of credit because of where he's at, has done a tremendous job with the Athletics. And I personally think, they've got players on that team. They just don't necessarily. I think it's about time that they start. I think the MLB needs to make it a little bit more advantageous for teams to spend money. Meaning, you have to start incentivizing teams to spend money.
Aaron wants to know: are Stanton and Trout's contract to Are Stanton and Trout's contract to what A-Rod's contract was at the end of his Yankees run?
No, and I'll tell you why. And you can speak on this more personally.
Kyle, we are in the same room, yes.
Yeah, we are. It just looks like we're not.
Right.
You can speak on to this personally. A-Rod wasn't the same guy he was the last 5 years of his contract.
Right. No, it was too much beef.
Trout and Stanton are still Trout and Stanton right now, right? So you can still go ahead and say, okay, we've got these guys. Like Trout, I still think is going to be a great player. Do I think he's going to be a great player until he's 42? No. So it's a little bit different with that. I think at the same time, there's absolutely no shot that a guy like Trout is going to sniff a World Series ring, though. That's
not
just
in
my
LA.
Opinion. I think he's
just
got
not in LA.
I think he would have been better off not taking that Supermax deal that he took. I know that he thought, it's $400 million. Why not take it? I think he could have held off and maybe gone somewhere.
I think so too.
I think he could have gone back to Philly. Shocked. He could have went back to Philly and teamed up with Bryce Harper.
Bryce Harper,
if he
right?
Yeah, so.
Or the Yankees would have come to Collins like, look. We just made that colossal mistake I was talking about in trading Clint Frazier. But hey, here's $400-some million, because the Yankees at some point are going to have to pay Aaron Judge.
Right.
But the thing with Aaron Judge is, I don't see Judge taking that big of a contract if he knows that there's more money to be spent to go around.
Even Torres, too. I mean, Gleyber Torres, another 3-4 years, you have to think about him.
Yep.
And, so there's a lot of... And also... Michael Williams said, what about the White Sox? Honestly, how long is that rebuild going to last? I mean, they're only year 2.5 right now of the rebuild. I think you probably have to give the rebuild 3 years until you start to think about it. They're in a good position, though. I mean, I'm very happy about the White Sox right now. They're not winning ball games right now, but being a guy that watches every single game, you're starting to see the improvements that you need. Michael Kopech is not playing right now. He's injured. He'll be back. Dylan Cease is still in there. So we have pitching problems right now, but I don't think we will soon. So I think we're still just getting started with this rebuild. Hopefully next
Kyle,
year.
I agree because he said it. Being offered $400 million is kind of hard to turn down.
No. Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah,
but that's why I'm saying I think he's going to get the Giancarlo Stanton treatment. Yeah. That someone's going to come across. Because if you think about it, the Yankees almost got Giancarlo the year before they actually got him. Mm-hmm. He was the hottest target in at the trade deadline, but they just couldn't pull the trigger. Then once the season was over with, they're like, okay, Derek Jeter went over and took over. Okay, who's Derek Jeter's biggest ally? The New York Yankees. Yeah. Let's talk deal.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Michael Williams said that he doesn't think that anyone would take Miguel Cabrera's contract. And I think that's not true because if you can con a team of taking a piece of that contract, then yes, somebody will take it. Just like when A-Rod had that 10-year, $250 million contract. Yeah. He traded it to the Yankees. The deal was that the Yankees and the Rangers would go half and half on the contract. Mm-hmm. So the Yankees were paying $12.5, and was paying $12.5, and the best thing the Yankees had to give up was Alfonso Soriano at the time.
Yeah, that turned out pretty well for them.
Right,
yeah.
You get what I'm saying? And then so when he opted out and thought that he was going to get $350 from anybody, the Yankees were like, well, you're not getting $350, so you got to take a discount, which was $275 for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So I think in Detroit's case, they're going to have to eat some of that contract.
Yeah.
Because Detroit went on such a win-now mode, and then it didn't work out.
Yeah.
And now they're eating and paying contracts that are flipping terrible.
And it gets easy to forget around this time of the year how desperate teams are in another 2 or 3 months.
Yes.
So once the deadline is fast approaching, which I don't know if this takes effect this year, but I think the deadline now is it's next year that there's a hard deadline, because is it this year that goes into effect? Because I know that they changed the rule where there's no waiver deadline anymore. It's basically like a trade deadline. I hate that too, but I agree with you though. You're not doing this to take all of the money and give it to somebody else. You're doing this to say, man, we made this yearly commitment we can't keep anymore. And I do want to get to this because we're over time right now. So I want to say this. The NHL Stanley Cup Final starts Monday. You've got the Boston Bruins and the St. Louis Blues. Both interesting teams.
Yes. The Blues' first final
since the 1970, is it, or something? I think it's actually been longer.
Yeah.
I think it might have been 70 years is why I'm thinking of 1970, but you're right. But also, these are two very similar teams on paper, too. Boston, I'm going to go with Boston in this series overall. I'll say this because I loved Carolina going into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. I thought they looked really good all year, and they had the pieces. And they embarrassed the Hurricanes. Obviously, the Hurricanes, didn't have a lot of experience, but man, the Bruins embarrassed them and took them out. They've got the experience. Pretty much most of their team has been there before. I love what Krug and Marchand and Chara are able to do, and for the most part, and you know what was very interesting? St. Louis's team is transformed really heavily over the last few years. They went out and traded like TJ Oshie and a couple of the guys that were mainstays there, and a lot of people were really upset with them.
Really mad at them, especially on that Oshie.
Oshie, yeah. And
they traded him to Washington.
And then Washington wins the freaking Stanley Cup, and everyone's like, what the hell? So St. Louis, man, credit to them. They put together a pretty damn good team of all Canadians almost, which is something that needs to be said, that this Boston team makes up a lot of Americans. I know Zdeno Chara is from Slovakia, but it's basically like an all-Canada versus all-America team, which is very interesting. So I like Boston in this series.
I like Boston in this series too, and I think each game we're really starting to see the greatness of Tuukka Rask. Yeah. I got a buddy that thinks Tuukka Rask is going to be a future Hall of Fame goalie.
I think so too.
I think there's
when it's all said and done, yeah.
But yeah, man, Tuukka Rask has really been playing lights out. Yeah. And I think for what it's worth, I really think that St. Louis more or less squeaked in.
Yeah, they did with San Jose,
especially with controversy as far as that is. But Boston's really been rested up. I think goalie-wise, I think they have the better goalie. Boston does, and Tuukka Rask. And I like them defensively better than St. Louis. So I'm thinking that the way Boston's playing right now, I really think they'll take the Stanley Cup Final in 5. Speaking of the NHL, so
draft.
I don't think Jack Hughes is going number 1 to.
You don't think so anymore? Is that what's the rumor that they're going to take
Kakko? The Kakko's been snapping off.
Yeah,
but I don't know. As a Rangers fan who's got number 2, look, as much as I want Kakko, I'll take Jack Hughes any day to flipping wheat.
Yeah. Because
the one thing that the Rangers have always had problem with is they need another center.
Yeah. There's no loser in the 1-2 there.
None whatsoever. No way, yeah. So yeah, we might lose out on one, but
I think the Blackhawks are the losers, to be quite honest, because they couldn't get that one of those top 2 picks. So
yeah. And then the Rangers also then got even a bigger benefit when John Davidson resigned from the Columbus Blue Jackets to be president of the New York Rangers. Because Glenn Saylor stepped down, and then the other guy, I can't think of his name, stepped down. So all you had was Jeff Gordon. So John Davidson, Mr. New York Ranger himself, was like, well, if that position's over with, look, Columbus was a great 6.5 years.
Yeah.
I got to go.
I'm out.
And went and immediately took that job from immediately took that job from to the New York Rangers. Aaron says they went from 9-3. How did they lose? You're absolutely right.
Because they didn't get a top 2 pick, is what we're saying. The big loser is if you didn't make that top 2, you're a loser, no matter what, because of their top 2. Guys, let's not get this twisted. Blackhawks are going to get a great player, but Hughes and Kakko are 1 and 2,
man,
and there's a steep drop off from there. So that's the clear thing. So no, it's not a loser because you can't control how the freaking lottery shakes out.
Right.
But at the same time, yeah, if you didn't get a top 2 pick here, you're in trouble.
I 100% agree. So that's what. Oh my goodness, there was something else I wanted to bring up. Dude, this is how you know I'm getting old.
We're both getting old, man.
I'm getting old, man.
I was yawning earlier.
30, 36, 36. Well, wait a minute. You're yawning because I have the utmost respect for you. And I've said this off air. And I actually wanted to bring this up, since we're getting to the end of the show.
Yeah.
Because I'm familiar with Ramadan. And, because I used to be a security guard at the Sony warehouse in Bolingbrook.
Yeah.
And I worked with 2 guys. One was Pakistani, and I can't for the life of me think what the other guy was. And they both were doing the Ramadan fast. And I'll never forget the one day this lady that worked upstairs came downstairs with this pizza, right? She's like, hey, we got some leftover pizza you guys can have. No one's going to eat it. All right, cool.
We'll take it.
I'm sitting there maxing. And I looked over. I was like, you ain't gonna get no piece. I'm thinking like,
yeah,
because I know the whole meat situation.
Yeah.
I was like, you don't want a piece? He's like, man, I'm doing Ramadan. I can't do it. So I had him explain it to me.
Yeah.
I said, look, man, my bad. I did not mean to just eat in front of you like that. And then ever since that happened, when people tell me they doing Ramadan, I have just the utmost respect because I know how much discipline it is to do the Ramadan fast. So you're not just yawning because you're tired, bro.
Because I should be sleeping.
These nutrients.
Yeah, no. So I mean, thank you for that, man. Props to you for acknowledging that because it's a really cool thing. It's a really good way to kind of understand a little bit more about yourself and also about how much sort of an effect not being able to eat or drink anything is, and just understanding how many people in this world right now don't have what we have, right? Don't have the water to drink and don't have the food to drink, and putting yourself in that position, even artificially, for sun up to sundown for a month is a really big thing. So unfortunately, I'm so sorry to do this, Nick, but I gotta go eat and drink some shit right now. Okay.
Man. Yes, sir.
So
I want to real quick before we go.
Yeah,
Kyle wants to ask,
please.
Do we think that Stevie Y is good for Detroit, or is it overhyped? I don't think it's over. I can understand why he's asking if it's overhyped because Stevie Eisenman, Detroit Red Wings, enough said.
Iconic, yeah.
But Stevie did a good job down in Tampa.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's unfortunate they got swept this year and piss off to them because the Rangers could have used that number 1 pick.
Yeah.
But
the Blackhawks, I mean, they beat them in the finals. They beat the Lightning in the finals.
That should have been us in that
finals.
finals.
So yeah, I mean, and that was that year as well. So honestly, here's the big thing about those types of positions in hockey. A guy like Stevie Y can walk in there and do more than another high-profile guy with better front office skills could because he's Stevie Y.
Right.
So to a certain extent, yeah, you don't want, just to showcase. I don't think this is like a Magic Lakers thing. I think this is Stevie Y who knows what he's doing and also has the power in Detroit. So yeah, we are. So I appreciate all the people sending us questions.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'll go ahead and read this ad here. Are you moving or removing or need space? Hodgepodge of Chicago has you covered with home, business, office, industrial, retail, or construction sites. Hodgepodge does it all. On-demand storage, convenient pickup and delivery from or to your door with 48-hour notice. Junk removal. We'll move your junk and keep it out of the waste stream. Self-storage services, secure storage in our own facility with 24/7 sensor-equipped monitoring. Sustainable hauling. By repurposing, donating, or recycling the refuse we collect, we break the cycle of waste and help others in the process. Packing and unpacking. Our professional movers will ensure that your possessions arrive safely at your doorstep. Moving protection, bonded and insured for your protection. If you're looking for moving and storage, choose Hodgepodge. Your unwanted items don't just end up in the landfill, They are donated to people who need them. Go visit gohodgepodge.com. Again, that's gohodgepodge.com.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to Intrinsic Marketing.
Yes.
Shout out to Boss to Boss. Shout out to Hodgepodge. Shout out to Steve here, man. Appreciate you doing this for us. And I think any parting words, Mr. Russell?
Thank you to everybody that watched the show. Happy birthday again to Melissa. She's going
Happy
out
birthday,
tonight.
Melissa.
I'm jealous. I wish I was in New York right now with all Yankee fans because we're out here kicking ass and taking names, and it's not going to stop. And Chicago is just in the way of the train. 3 weeks. 3 weeks greatness comes to Chicago.
Yes, sir.
I can't wait. So thank you again to everybody who watched the show.
And everybody asking questions, too. Thank you so much. That was great.
Share the show. Don't forget to like the Facebook page, Mack and Black. Don't forget to go and sign up on us on YouTube.
Yep.
Subscribe. You always get the shows.
And I'm gonna post a link to the YouTube as soon as we get out of the show. Guys, please subscribe to the YouTube. We're gonna be putting out some more content. I know the 2 hours of me and Nick is it's a little bit tough to digest, but you're gonna get even more of us. We're not going away anytime soon. So
now that I got the little mans right here.
Yeah, and now that the Yankees, I'm not gonna hear the end of it until the Yankees start doing a little bit worse. So it's okay.
Probably
though.
not happening.
Probably not happening.
Soon.
That's okay. That's all right. But hey, for Steve, Nick, I'm Mac. Thank you guys.